Okay. Hey, welcome everybody. We're here for game time with Doc, Phil, and Greg. Greg's not with us this week. We're not sure exactly why. He get enough time to let us know that he couldn't make it today, but he didn't actually give us his reason. But that's okay. Life happens, as we know. No
Yeah.
problem there. Me and Lurch will just run the show as if it's one of the days he's over at Holdfast. Um, let's see. I'm just bringing up our chat pop-up window while I'm talking to you. For those who don't know, if there's anybody that comes in who doesn't know anymore, this is game time where we basically give a shout out to our friends and family in the game community here in the Ozarks. Uh, Game, not necessarily just meaning games, but everybody in the gaming, arts, media, and entertainment nerddoms. So we encompass everything from like cosplay, Kickstarter of your own like comic books, voiceover acting, gaming, electronic gaming, tabletop gaming, board and card gaming, crafts. I mean, you name it. If it's a nerddom, we probably have at least 80 or 90 representatives with it. Ghostbusters of the Ozark comes to our event. We've got the Amped Garters, the LARPers. I'm heavy into role playing games myself, and of course, comic books. Lurch is our electronic gaming guru, and of course, also a big comic book fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greg's our tabletop guy. Like me, Greg's big into role playing games and board and card games. Um, so, yeah, we try to encompass all of that. And our main goal is to further the educational side of these hobbies because there's a lot of education, a lot of actual career opportunities for people in this uh, type of work now. You could go from being a costume player to working in the movies, either as a full flung main actor or at least as an extra, like a putty on the Power Rangers or a stormtrooper or red shirt on Star Trek. Stormtrooper in
I
Star
wonder.
Wars, red shirt in Star Trek. What a thing to aspire to be a red shirt. But hey, there's a lot of people that are quite proud to die on Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
sure.
yeah. So we're going to do a quick sound check, and then we're going to get into our subject matter. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Type of work
I
now.
checking
You could
for
go
my
from being
deeper voice.
a costume player to working in the movies, either as a full flung main
And what
actor or at least
our
as an
friends at
extra, like
home
a putty on the Power
uh,
Rangers
should
or
be looking at on the
a
screen here is
stormtrooper or a red
our
shirt
new
on Star
dates
Trek.
for next
Stormtrooper in
year
Star
for
Wars,
Game
red shirt
Expo
in Star Trek.
2022.
What
We
a
got our
thing to
date
aspire
set
to
for
be a
Friday,
red shirt.
October 14th through Sunday, October
But hey, there's a
16th
lot of people that are
of
quite proud
2022.
to die on Star Trek.
Yeah, and we'll be
I'm
opening up the
sure.
web
Yeah.
page with
So we're going to do a
more
quick sound
information
check, and then
on
we're going to
October
get
1st.
into our subject matter. Check 1 2, check 1 2.
Doc, can you hear me?
Type of work
I
now.
checking
You could
for
go
my
from being
deeper voice.
a costume player.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Working in. It is just the delay today is really heavy. So I was trying to listen to
Okay.
the sound check, not you. I kind of knew what you were talking about, but
Sure.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Like what you're
to
saying.
the Springfield Game Facebook page for more announcements, or to our main webpage for any more details after October 1st.
Yes, October 1st we go live, and as you can see, our dates are right there for next year. We're not doing anything this year.
Yep.
It's a little bit too
We'll
tight
be
to schedule something, and COVID's still kind of high out there. So we're going to delay till next year,
yeah.
barring any other COVID or other complications.
Yeah, as long as like the Omega variant doesn't, come about and end everything.
right. And nobody hits a button and drops a bomb.
Um, and we'll be back over at the Expo Center, our usual spot,
And our usual
next
month.
year. Yeah, in our usual month.
We talked about changing to like earlier in the year, but then COVID happened and we never really did it. So
Yeah,
so we just pretty much stayed in our comfortable October spot. But that's when most people expect to see us. But stay tuned. We'll also let you know if we're going to do a picnic next year or not. And as always, we're going to be calling for volunteers. One of the things we do want to let people know as we give more information out for a game, um, we're not going to have as many things going on this game as previously done because we don't have the directors to run all the different sections. But if you would really like to see something that you loved a game and you don't see it as one of the things we're going to be doing when we start announcing, step up and volunteer to run it
yeah,
or recommend a friend to do it because we have a lot less staff than normal because of people being sick and having lifetime things going on.
yeah.
And so,
So we're kind of trying to keep things a little bit simple, and this year, instead of us saying these are all the things we're doing, we need to find people or get people into these spots. We're saying these are the people we have. These are this, and so we're gonna
we're
use
gonna
what we've got.
yeah we're gonna
So
give you these bare minimums.
if there is a specific function at game that you would like to make sure happens, um, but we don't have it on our list of items that we're going to be doing for the next year, but you would be willing to take that over, take that kind of in charge and organize it. So, for example, the costume contest. As of the time of this live broadcast, of this recording, we're not currently planning a costume contest. But if you would like to be in charge of the costume contest, get a hold of us and we can try to talk about details if you want to try to organize that. If we get someone that volunteers and is able to organize that, then that's when we'll be adding costume contests to our list of events for 2022.
Yeah, and related to the costume contest is another example, the art show. Right now,
Yeah,
we
the
have
art
nobody running
show.
the art show.
Yeah.
And somebody could run both the art show and the costume contest if they wanted to take them both on. In fact, traditionally, a lot of times those are both run by the same person or similar people. Uh, so you could always volunteer to do that. You don't just have to do one role. I mean, we've worn many hats, haven't we, Phil?
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, Phil is both our co-chairman and our electronic gaming director. So just to show you, I'm our
And
cross promotions and our panel
sometimes,
director.
sometimes I help with getting guests too.
And yeah, and
Like
I'm
specifically, I got Eric Wiley, who was the PlayStation game developer that we had a few years ago.
and of course I'm always
For example.
deeply involved with the tabletop gaming, where I used to be the director, and of course I run the RPG College in addition to doing cross promotions and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
we can wear multiple hats, just don't take on more than you can do because we don't want anybody to get all burned out. We'll
Yeah.
be giving you much more details as time progresses. Keep an eye on the Eclectic Endeavors Facebook group because we'll announce in that group when we're having open meetings, and our meetings are open to the public. So if you want to come in and see what's going on and then possibly volunteer to either be a henchman or a director or a manager, let us know. And we'll see if we can fit you in and get things going. And let's try to make 2022 one of the best games ever. Huh? That's my, that.
All
Yep,
right.
that's my goal. Anyway, we're gonna move on from that in right into our stories.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see here, and the first story we have up on the docket is a update on pre-order for Horizon Forbidden West. That's you, Lurch.
Yep. 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 Okay. So they just started taking pre-orders for Horizon Forbidden West, which is going to be coming out this February. I was telling a friend of mine on the phone about it coming out in February, and immediately after he asked me, "Do we have a time frame for when it's going to come out?" And the person that because he was on speakerphone, someone else that was in the room goes, "He just said February 3 times."
Yeah,
But February 18th is our it slipped into the 2022. They were trying to get it out in 2021, but I'd rather it come out February and you know be in better condition. You know what I mean? Get that polish on there. It's been a tough year for development.
yeah,
But
and a
along
lot of
with the
things have been
pre-orders, we have
delayed.
details about what. Yes. Along with the pre-orders, we are getting a lot of different editions of the pre-order. We got the standard edition that is, $60 on PS4 or $70 on PS5. And then we got the digital deluxe, which comes with the game plus digital copy of the game plus special, outfits and other DLC, in-game um strike pieces, which strike is this new mini game within the game. Apparently, it's going to be like some kind of a board game or something that you play against other players, not other players, other characters in the game. I guess I'm thinking of it as kind of like Gwent from The Witcher 3. I don't know how it's going to play at all, but this gets you some extra pieces for it. Exclusive photo mode poses and face paints, digital art book, digital soundtrack, a
Yeah,
digital comic book of Horizon called the Sunhawk. And then there's a special edition which gives you a steel book with a physical copy. Steel book looks pretty. Um, the edition I got is the collector's edition, which basically comes with all the stuff that came with the digital deluxe plus but it's all a digital only. It's kind of curious. I'm kind of a fan though. The collector's edition is a digital only code. It's not a physical copy of the game, but it comes with like this huge statue of a Tremor Tusk, which is a new creature for the second game. It's like a mammoth made of robot parts, a robotic mammoth,
a mecha
and an
mammoth.
Aloy statue. Yeah, a mecha mammoth. A physical mini art book, a little statue of Aloy that seems to be the scale to the mammoth tusk or the tremor tusk. I mean, that is the one that I've got on pre-order. Plus, a bunch of other extra in-game items as well. And then they have a Regala edition, which has another Trimmer Tusk, but it's a special version called the Regala Trimmer Tusk statue, with Tanuk warriors. So it's like another one of those mammoth guys. Only he's got like red paint on him. He's got extra armor and like a little building on his back that has bad guys inside of it. It
That's
looks
called a
pretty intense.
palanquin.
Palanquin. Okay.
Yes.
And then it's got a focus, which is that little device that Aloy wears. I'm unsure if you can actually wear the focus, but I would hope so. Some physical machines, some physical strike pieces, which is the board game that they're making to go in it. Um, so yeah, they seem to be selling pretty quick. Um, so if you want to pre-order it, I would recommend getting on it now. Hopefully you can still get the collector's editions. I tried to pre-order the Regala edition from PlayStation directly, and it was already sold out. But maybe you can find it at GameStop or Best Buy or somebody. But yeah, I
Yeah,
just kind of want to let people in. Oh, and there was some controversy with this announcement too. Initially, if you bought the standard edition for PS, if you bought the standard edition or the special edition, then it only was good for one platform or the other between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. But they got some backlash on that. So, like, they made it to where only the collector's editions and digital deluxe and regala editions was both versions of the game. But they have reversed that because of backlash, and now there's even the standard edition um, will be the PS4 and PS5 versions of the game.
nice. Yeah.
So they're making it cross gen. Um, Because yeah, they didn't even have when they announced it. They didn't even have a an upgrade plan. Like they didn't even have a thing where you could spend an extra $10 to upgrade to the PS5 version, or if you bought the PS4 version.
Right, and they really
So
should have
now
at
they're
least
making
had
it to
that.
where, yeah, yeah. So, but now they're making it to where if you bought the PS4 version, you can upgrade to the PS5 version for free. Which, since they announced that, actually, I don't know if the PS5 version is $70 anymore. I'm thinking I got the special edition, so now I don't remember. But anyway, yeah,
A brief comment
check
on
that
that
out. If you
mini game.
go ahead.
A lot of games are now going the route of adding a bunch of mini games in. I mean, there's been mini games in computer games for a long, long time.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, but it's now coming to where almost every new game out there has at least one or two mini games in there somewhere. Just to add a little bit of difference
It's
to you, so
it's
you might be
it's
grinding for a
especially
while, and then
common.
all of a sudden you get a mini game.
It's especially common in, well, besides just mini games, it's like, something that's more common in RPG games and other kinds of games is, a game that your character plays,
Right?
you know?
Yeah, like Dark
Like there's
Cloud.
plenty, like,
Go
what the
ahead.
Dark Cloud got.
Dark Cloud 2 has
I was
a
just
golf
saying,
like game called Spira. Dark Cloud 1 has a mini game. I don't remember what it was exactly. Final Fantasy 10 had Blitzball.
yeah,
They're just they like to sprinkle those mini games in there.
yeah. Digimon World 3 had a Digimon trading card game, mini game in it.
Jackson Daxter pretty much
That
is
actually,
nothing but mini games. I mean, it's a lot of mini games in Jackson Daxter series.
yeah.
Uh,
But man, doesn't that statue look great? The
I
Trigger
love
Tusk?
that. I love that Trigger Tusk, and the Palanquin on top looks
Yeah.
awesome. I've always been a big fan
Oh man.
of military palanquins.
Hmm.
Alexander used them on his elephants when he crossed the Alps. So the palanquins are also used non-militaristically in India and countries as transport for safari
Yeah.
and stuff. But the military palanquins were always kind of a special favorite of mine. So yeah, that's pretty good. So yeah, that's good. See, they finally locked down a date. Speaking of lockdown dates, not exactly related to game, but we were going to mention it anyway. And we talked about October 1st being when we're going to start. We're going to have the update on our website. October 1st is the lockdown date for Venom. Let There Be Carnage. Just as a brief
Oh
mention,
yeah.
we talked about this just moments before we launched the show, so I figured this is a good place to stick that in there before we go on to the next topic. Let There Be
You know,
Carnage. It's already on pre-order for some places, and October 1st is
if
when it's
you
actually going to hit.
if you were to count the Venom movie as a Marvel movie, because it's
Hmm.
based on Marvel characters at least, then we'd
Right.
have four Marvel movies in 4 months
Well, I mean,
between.
it is a
See,
Marvel movie. It's just not a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
a Sony
Yeah,
Cinematic Universe movie right now, until
yeah.
or unless they merge them together somehow, which we don't know what's going to happen in the
I,
future with all that. Um, Eventually, Disney will buy Sony because Disney buys everything. But yeah, so that's coming out too, and of course, Shang Chi was the first truly official uh, new Phase movie, and it was and we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but it was the first of the Disney movies that's theater only release since COVID happened. Well, Venom: Let There Be Carnage is going to be a theater exclusive release as well, so you're not going to get it on any streaming service early. Just to point that out.
yeah.
They're slowly trying to move back to theater, and it's kind of going to depend on what their theater ticket sales are. If they obviously don't get a lot of ticket sales in the theater, they may go back to Premier Access type stuff like Disney was doing in the past.
Yeah.
And
Well,
HBO and Warner Brothers is going to, I think, keep going with their early access streams for now.
yeah. Well,
They're,
Warner Brothers made the promise that every theatrical movie released in 2021 would release on HBO Max day one. So
right.
if they want to fulfill that promise, they have to at least do it till the end of the year.
Yeah, and then 2022 we'll see what happens. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, so let's move on to our next topic. But that's a good update on the horizon. Let's see here, and okay, this is a story about Lee Gold. She is the woman who, by 1976, was the most important gamer in role playing after Gary Gygax himself. Of course, Gary Gygax and Dave Arunson brought us Dungeons and Dragons, pretty much the flagship role playing platform. Um, Everybody pretty much knows. And in fact, a lot of people don't even know Dave Aronson's name. They just know Gary Gygax as the face of Dungeons and Dragons. He was the most prolific writer in Dragon magazine when it came to writing about his work. He was the lead designer and pretty much the idea man, and Dave Aronson just helped him out with it. He wrote some of the fiction for the world and everything, and so he was the godfather of role playing games, as it were. But this is just a little thing DM Dave put out on his blog about Lee Gold. She was one of the first female inroads makers in the role playing game industry, and she started an APA. Now, for those who don't know what an APA is, it's an amateur publishing association. People used to do these little zines, they were called. In fact, you still hear zine used today on the internet. But back then, they were mail zines, and everybody would make their own little zine for the different fandoms they did. And they would mail them out, often for free or for shipping. And then APA started coming out, which would group a bunch of related zines together into one book and then go out to subscribers, which would allow the zine producers to produce more zines because they got a little bit of money to cover their costs for printing and everything and shipping, and had a centralized thing. And she created one of the first zines that was, well, pretty much the first zine focused on role-playing games. In addition to being a zine writer and producer, of course, she also worked in several gaming companies through the years. In fact, she had a special knowledge of Japanese culture, so she worked on a couple of Japanese rule books and also even a Norseman rule book. Let me see if I can. Her her zine was called see alarms and excursions, with alarms spelled alarums, Alarums, which is the old medieval uh, spelling and such of alarm. Uh, the first issue debuted in 1975, which is only a year after Dungeons and Dragons was first formed. Um, let's see, what was it? I was saying that she. I was looking to see which one she did because she did those two rule books. Oh yeah, she did the Viking rule book for Rollmaster and did GURPS Japan. So 1988 GURPS Japan, 1989 Vikings for Rollmaster, just as an example of a couple of things she did. Um, and of course, at the time, I said women were not seen big in the fantasy genre of things. Now, she, of course, came from the sci-fi side of things because a lot of role players were sci-fi fans, not necessarily fantasy fans, but the game appealed to both. And she came in from the sci-fi angle, which was a little bit more populated with women. Still a male dominated on both sides during those years, but more women were in the sci-fi genre. And when she was approached, uh, when she was going to publish her first book, role playing book, the publisher asked her, says, "Do you want me to put you and your husband were the writers of the book?" Because that was the normally accepted way things were done there. And she says, "Nope, he didn't write the book. I did. I mean,
Yeah.
he did some of the basically he was a collator and indexer and stuff, and I gave him credit for that. But I did this book." And the guy's like, "Yeah, but most women put their husband on as co-writers when they do this kind of thing." He says, "Yeah." She says, "Well, I don't care what most people do. This is what I do. Put it by me."
Yeah.
Also, another related
Good on
story.
her. How that
What?
hopefully that turned out well, right? That
Well,
she
I
had
mean,
it just put by her.
their book was fine. Yeah. Now, Gary Gygax, because there were sometimes in the APA zine that Dungeons and Dragons would come under criticism, because part of it was fans criticizing the game, both good and bad criticism, which is what drives the whole zine media. Um, and so at one time, Gary Gygax called her, and she answered, and he's like, "I wanted to speak to Lee," and she said, "This isn't he." He says, "But you're a woman." He says, "Yeah," and he couldn't get over the fact that she is a woman. So all through in fact, they even have a part of that dialogue in this article. Now, I will post the link to the article in my chat, and if you want, you can copy it over into the Springfield Game Chat, and that way, anybody who also watches the rebroadcast on YouTube can use that link if they want to actually read this article. But it goes into a lot of detail about Lee Gold, because she really was a pioneer in our role-playing gaming industry. And I thought when I came across this article, I was like, "Oh no, that's perfect to share with other people." So not only am I sharing with other people the Lee Gold story, but I'm also telling you to go check out DM Dave's blog and Twitch channel and tools and stuff for Dungeons and Dragons, because that's an excellent resource. DM Dave generally doesn't steer you wrong.
Yeah.
He and so I'm not going to go into more detail. You can read more about it yourself. But this is yet another showcase into a pioneer of the gaming world. It's not all just Gary Gygax. As much as I admire Gary Gygax myself, or admired, I guess, since he's no longer with us, but there were many people that actually brought the role playing game into our lives other than Gary Gygax, and Lee Gold would be a stunning example of one, and a great example of early inclusivity in nerddom, because as much as Gary couldn't necessarily conceptualize it, uh, gamers have often been open to more people than other exclusive hobbies. Like sports teams have always been segregated. You have a men's baseball team, a women's baseball team. You have a men's basketball team, women's basketball team, and never the two should meet. Uh, in gymnastics, they have whole different events that they focus on in the Olympics. Uh, you know, uh, where Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu and Vampire the Masquerade, we accepted men, we accepted women. Generally, the thing is, you needed to be a storyteller, you needed to have a pretty good intellect, and you needed to have some free time. That's what you needed to join in on the games. And you gather around a table with some dice and have some fun. So uh, check it out when you get a chance. And we'll go ahead and move on to our next topic if you don't have any comments. Philip, you good? Philip, you there? Philip, can you hear me? Are you frozen, Philip? Uh-oh. Might they having some internet problems, or Philip might be having some internet problems? I'm gonna refresh my. Uh, okay. Oh, here goes. Lurch is linking back up again. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, was it you that lost or me? I wouldn't refresh, but
I got my Discord got all messed up. I completely froze and couldn't hear anything.
okay. Well,
So
we're about to go on to the next topic. You don't have anything else to say on this one, do you?
no, I think you covered that well. I think it's pretty great that they're doing this, recognizing this woman who did so much important work for RPGs and D&D, and
It's
um,
especially in a
you
time
know,
period when equality of the sexes was not even on the radar.
yeah, yeah, it was a tough time. It's still tough today, but boy, it was.
We're working on it.
er, Yeah, yeah. There's efforts being made today.
Yeah, a lot more efforts. Now, luckily, like I
uh,
had said, in gaming, we've been always been more accepting than other places, but it's still nice to see uh,
hmm
progress and early progress, especially. Okay, we're going to go on to our next topic, which is, of course, yours. You're talking about the new Marvel Avengers game
Yep. Yeah.
updates.
So, yeah, we got some new updates. They put out a new roadmap, which the roadmap's not pictured here, but I just wanted to hit a few of the highlights. Um, they're finally adding in their first raid to Avengers, which is going to be fighting against Claw. Sorry, I got hiccups all of a sudden. It seems to be concluding the story from the War for Wakanda drop that we got a few weeks ago. Um, we don't have an exact release date, but before the end of the year, all these things are supposed to happen. We're going to get the first raid, which is going to be by far the most challenging event in the game. That will be available at that time. It'll be. They say it's going to take like a team of 4 people working together to accomplish, to beat it. So that could be a pretty tough thing. I might have to try to find a couple extra people because it's mostly well, I got Angel and I got Allie, so I'm gonna have to find a 4th person to join us, I think. We're also getting Spider-Man finally before the end of the year as a playable character, at least for the PlayStation version of the game. He'll be a PlayStation exclusive, and they're increasing the level cap from power level cap. I mean, from 150 to 175, and uh, I think that's the big stuff. They talked about how there'll be 2 different versions of the raid. You got the regular version that's good for players in the 150, 160 levels, and then the elite power level of 160 to 175 for taking on the huge 4-person raid. New
Now,
exotic gear and some item stuff. They're also going to do some XP boost opportunities, and in the months ahead as we get closer to it. And they're bringing back some of the uh, events that they've done before, like the Cosmic Threat and the Red Room Takeover. They're bringing Tachyon anomalies. They're bringing those things back to give people things to build up some XP in anticipation of the raid.
And now,
The game came out a year ago, basically this week. So it's been a little bit slow paced, but it's growing.
now this one is partly free to play, right? And then partly pay to play.
So you buy the game, but then once you buy the game, all the DLC is free, except for cosmetic stuff. There's pay for cosmetic stuff,
And it's
but
not on
every
PlayStation Plus or anything for free.
um
I thought it was on for
no,
free on one of them.
it's on PlayStation Now, or it was. I don't know if it still is,
Maybe it was
but it was
now that
on
it was.
PlayStation Now for a while.
Because I was going to say I could possibly be your fourth. It was free, but I figured a lot of this content would not be in the free sector anyway. um,
Yeah.
okay.
So any new characters, any raids, any new content really is going to be free to keep playing the game. The thing that costs extra is if you want to have more, if you want to get access to all the extra cosmetics and stuff. Which I will say the cosmetics are a little expensive.
Right.
Some
Well,
costumes, on the high end, some costumes are as much as like $14.
mm,
14, $15, something like that. Some costumes are like $5. I kind of feel like $5 should be the higher end for a costume, but
I don't
hey,
buy
I'm not.
cosmetics for games, so
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, it's. I find it a really really fun game. Spider-Man has been a character people have been looking forward to. I've been looking forward to for a long time.
well,
Um,
in a lot of ways,
it's
Spider-Man
the
is the Marvel flagship character. It's the one that everybody recognizes.
yeah
Both
yeah, and
comic book
that's
people and non-comic book people recognize Spider-Man.
yes, yeah. He's the most popular Marvel character.
Just like in DC, it's kind of Batman, Superman, kind of a split. Batman actually was more recognizable than Superman for quite a while,
Yeah.
but Superman in the resurgence is coming back to the fore.
I read a while back that Superman is was at least the most recognizable fictional character.
That's believable.
That's something I read like a year ago.
And yet, the Joker has been on the list of the 50 top villains for like more times, for more years than you can imagine.
Yeah.
Him and Darth Vader have been on that
Excuse
list probably longer than everybody.
me.
So that just tells you, Superman might have villains like Lex Luthor and Doomsday and stuff, but Batman's got the villain in the Joker. Okay. Well, that's something to look forward to, especially if you're a heavy Marvel gaming fan. I love watching the movies,
Yeah.
reading the comic books. I don't play a lot of the games, but shoot, I don't have time to play a lot of things. I haven't even touched my own
I've
MMOs in a while, and I'm
I have
about.
I've personally put in over 300 hours into this Avengers game.
Well, yeah, but you're a gaming guru. You put hours into everything.
Yeah.
um, when I have to split everything up with my various like sub projects and dealing with chronic, fatigue syndrome and
I
everything else.
I I was shocked at how many hours I put into it when I checked on it. But I was playing it mostly multiplayer. Like I'd get on there and spend a few hours playing with a friend online and just like be bullshitting, just chatting while we're wrecking some aim bots or something.
Which is funny
Uh,
because you mostly like to play solo in
yeah,
a lot of your
most games
games.
I mostly play solo games. That was the big multiplayer game I played. Um, and between in the last year, I guess.
Unless
Especially
you're like streaming with Angel or something, yeah, you tend to play a lot of solo.
yeah. And streaming and non-streaming, I've played this game with Angel a lot. I played it with Squirrel, my girlfriend. I played it with her quite a bit, and so sometimes I'm playing to help her out because she, needs some backup while she's doing missions. Um, So yeah, just I've had a couple other people that would be playing and they're needing backup, and I had a high level character or a character that was close to their level that I needed to work on anyway. So
You'd come in and help
because
them
of the
out and team up,
yeah, and so the multiplayer nature of it is something that helps with the extra hours.
right? Because you
That's
get the
how it is. It's
socializing in.
one of the few games out there. Yeah,
You get your
it's one of the
socializing
few
in,
games I've gotten that in.
especially with
Yeah,
COVID. We're lacking in the socialization we used to get. So
yeah. I
finding
I gotta
excuses
say this
to
game
do stuff
probably
with other
came out in
people,
the perfect year for me personally, since I was stuck at home.
right?
Uh,
Because drives you crazy if you're just by yourself all the time.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we're social animals for the most part. Humans. I mean, a lot of nerds can be reclusive at times, but we still crave the attention of other nerds. We may not want all
yeah.
the other jocks and stuff sometimes, but other nerds we actually want to. We like to debate minutia about comic books and video games and books and everything. So you can't debate the minutia with nobody. You got to
I,
have somebody to
I
debate it with.
I miss the days of hanging out at the comic shop for like 3 hours every week and just talking about comic book bullshit
Oh, I miss
on
like
Wednesdays. That used to be my
conventions is
normal thing.
especially one of my thing I miss. But yeah, I was regularly going to the game store for D&D nights. But at conventions, we had a group of us that, especially over at VisionCon, we'd meet up every year and we'd start to bullshit, and then we'd turn into like a 4-part harmony singing group and just sing random songs from the radio and shit. And we do an impromptu a cappella karaoke with everybody, and we just had a blast with 3 or 4 of us in costume and carrying D&D books and everything, and we're singing like Backstreet Boys and Imagine Dragons. It was just lots of fun because of that social element. But then we
Yeah.
turn around and in breaks be arguing the minutia between the difference between John Constantine and Doctor Strange, or you know, the difference between like Deadshot and Deadpool, or whatever, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, so it's the social element that we miss, and that's part of why we are big proponents of our own convention, the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expos, because we do like interacting with our people. Don't forget my sodas. Okay. Oh, and trash. Did you do the trash today?
Huh?
Yeah.
Trash?
Already did.
Oh,
So yeah, I think that's about all I got to say about the Avengers business. I'm really looking forward to the Spider-Man stuff,
right.
and finally a raid. Now I
Okay.
just got to get people together.
Well, let's go into our next topic then, and we'll see what did I put for next. Okay, for those of you who are big fans of Dungeons and Dragons, especially the streaming Dungeons and Dragons phenomenon, which is of course Critical Role, which has probably brought more people into the fold of D&D than any other single thing out there in recent years. Fourth and fifth edition Critical Role really brought people in to the game with Matt Mercer and a bunch of voice actors playing the game, which really made for an impressive showcase of what the game could be all about. Anyway, they have recently announced their own uh, desktop publishing company for publishing board games, card games, and role playing games, called Darrington Press. Uh, so Darrington Press has already got a list of releases that are going to be coming out this year. I'm here on the Critical Role website that you can see in our big whiteboard area. And Darrington Press is what's going to be producing their new games. Now, Ivan Van Norman, as if you've ever watched Geek and Sundry or what's now Nerdist's Twitch channels. You've seen Ivan Van
Wait,
Norman as a
wait.
puppy medium.
Did Geek and Sundry become Nerdist?
Well,
Or
Nerdist bought Geek and Sundry. I think they kept
okay,
both channels going, but really Nerdist is the owner behind it. So
okay.
um, anyway, Ivan Van Norman here. You've probably seen on both Nerdist and Geek and Sundry broadcasts, either playing tabletop games as a guest or DMing his own sessions of different like horror genre games, space genre games. Uh, he's also well known because he wrote one of the D&D coloring books for kids and the ABCs of D&D. So Ivan Ben Norman's been involved in different aspects of the game, and he's the lead of the New Darrington Press with Matt Mercer on board, kind of like as a co-creator. He's the chief creative officer of Critical Role overall, but he's also joined Darrington Press as the creative advisor to the overall company. So the two of these guys are basically helming the ship as they bring us lots of games in the worlds of Critical Role and maybe some other related stuff. Now, for the releases for 2021, they've got a game called Akatoa, and I'm not going to go into all of the details of each individual game. I'm just going to kind of list them. But this was created by Jeb Havens, who did Burroughs, Mother Sheep, You Don't Know My Life, with some additional game design by Gabrielle Hicks, who's worked for Roll20, Paizo, and Mythic Grove. Art by Hannah Friedrich. Uh, Sculpts by Nicholas Norman, who did some of the Rooms Wars, the Imperium Assault, Fallout, the board game sculpts, and layout by V. Hindro, who did Good Society, which is a Jane Austen RPG, Visigoths versus Molgoths, and Lost Roads. You can buy it on launch day at the Critical Role online shop in the US, UK, and Australia, and that'll be great. Another one, launch day for this one is, let's see here. I don't see the actual launch date. Q1 2021. So it should already be out. Um, Critical Role Adventures, which is Q2. So it should be out now too, which is, of course, a board game using the Vox Machina characters from the first season of Critical Role. Um, then there's Syndicult, which I love that name. You know, mixing Criminal Syndicate with the Cult, and that's in Q3. And Guardians of Matrimonial in Q4. So they've got one release for each quarter of the year. That's pretty good for a brand new company. And Guardians of the Matrimony is fight the monsters, save the party. Guardians of Matrimony is a cooperative card game where players have pre-built decks that are pitted against a deck of monsters, which are party crashers. I guess since it says matrimony, it's probably the wedding party. Anyway, a lot of interesting games to get started with, and check out. Don't want to go into too much time or detail on this because we're edging on getting ready to hit 9 o'clock, and of course our media time always runs over. So,
yeah.
but check it out. Go to criticalrole.com, which is www.critrole.com, and you can go into the store in the news area and find out more about what's going on with our Critical Role buddies. They're still working on the Legends of Vox Machina uh, animated that the Kickstarter broke all the records for. Um, and of course, that hasn't actually been purchased by Amazon Prime. So if you have a Prime membership, you'll be able to watch it. And if you're a Kickstarter backer, you'll be able to watch the first couple of seasons, whether you're a Prime member or not. Um, and hopefully it'll become an ongoing thing. It won't just go for the couple seasons. But I think that's a pretty good bet considering the balloon of money that they earned during the Kickstarter. I mean, people obviously want to see lots and lots of content from these guys. But we're going to go on to our next topic, which is PlayStation Showcase in September 2021. And
Yep.
that's on you, Phil.
Yeah. All right. So tomorrow, Sony is doing the PlayStation Showcase. It's 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, or for us, it's 3 p.m. Central time. It'll be about 40 minutes long, and they typically the PlayStation Showcase is where they tend to make some really big announcements or show some major stuff. It's a lot bigger than when their state of plays typically would be. So I'm really hyped up about what this is going to be about. The
Yeah.
only things they've given us tease about what it's going to be is they told us it's not going to be about PlayStation VR stuff, but it's going to be a look at PlayStation 5 content, games for the rest of the year and beyond, which that and beyond can carry a lot of heavy lifting for 2022, 2023, who knows?
And they hold off a
Um,
lot of their announcements
I'm
for
pretty
this
sure it's one of these
showcase.
showcase. Yeah. So I'm personally super hyped to see what this is gonna show off. This aesthetic that they're using for this one is all very bougie. Like look at that. It's like diamonds making out the sacred symbols.
The
Um,
sacred
feels like a
symbols.
yeah. That's what people refer to the triangle, circle, X, square,
Yeah.
or cross, depending on who you ask. They refer to
It's
them as sacred symbols.
yeah. PlayStation was the first to change it from it used to be like 1, 2, A, B,
Yeah,
left, right, and stuff from the old days. But PlayStation then introduced these ones, and they were so popular they stuck.
yeah. They kept with them.
Hmm.
Um,
It was a good call.
yeah, yeah. The only thing that's frustrating is that the X button is in a different place on every console. It's at the bottom on PlayStation. It's I think on the left on Xboxes, and at the top on Nintendo. So when I'm following instructions on something and it says to press the X button, I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah, it's the old rotating X button.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
But
I stick to mostly just Sony. That way, mine stay the same.
yeah.
That's one
Oh man.
advantage to only really doing one or two consoles.
Uh I
Uh,
mean, yeah, I jump around so much though. Just in the last 2 weeks I've used the Xbox One, the PS5, Nintendo
the,
DS, the Wii U.
so you have to just basically look at it on a per game basis. You don't even think about what console you're on. You're thinking of the game. Okay, well, let's see. I'm playing this, so the X button's over here. Oh no, I'm playing this, but on a different console. No, what do I do?
But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm 40 minutes of who knows what. It's probably going to be a good chunk of first party stuff, but they say first party and third party PS5 games.
so it's going to be a dream building
Um,
show where you get to look
and
forward and see what's coming out in the future,
yeah,
the near future, the next
and
couple of years.
keep in mind, PlayStation didn't appear at E3 this summer, so I feel like this is almost kind of sort of their E3 press conference,
Yeah, I
but
think
later in the year.
they saved their stuff up for this,
Yeah.
which only
Uh,
bodes well.
so yeah, you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it at PlayStation.com/showcase, which is probably where I'm going to catch it.
Is it going to be on Twitch
We can
Gaming?
watch it live. Probably. Let's see. I forgot that. I don't remember that one. Let's see, 3 blah, blah, blah. Updates. Studio teams. I'm hoping to find out what what was it? Blue Point. What's going on with Blue Point? Because there was that leaked graphic from a couple months ago of Sony buying Blue Point, but then that got removed, and it hasn't been officially announced. And I'm hoping we're gonna see that officially announced, along with some badass game that they're working on. That's something I'm hoping for. Crossing my fingers, it's a Metal Gear remake, but let's see what happens.
Nice. Definitely for those who are into console gaming, especially people like me who prefer the Sony system. Everybody's got their preference. Uh,
Yeah,
but for those who prefer the Sony system, this is going to be the showcase watch. I think I might try to get up early from my midday nap and check that out
yeah.
myself. His girlfriend has to work 2 hours of overtime every day this week because she had Monday off for Labor Day. So
So
she won't get off
some
work till
things we
about.
might see, some things we might see that we know is on the horizon at some point is God of War Ragnarok, Gran Turismo 7, Final Fantasy 16. They're working on a Naughty Dog or is working on a Last of Us multiplayer game. Well, we're not sure if it's actually Last of Us, but that's what is rumored. We know they're working on a multiplayer game. It's believed that it's the Last of Us based
It's either
multiplayer game.
Last of Us or in the Last of
Um,
Us universe, maybe.
yeah, yeah. They did have the Last of Us one multiplayer game called Factions, and so people are thinking that this because they were hiring not too long ago for work on a multiplayer game, so they're thinking that people are thinking that Naughty Dog's working on a Last of Us Factions Part 2 kind of a thing. Um, and then who knows? There's so many things we don't know about yet, and
I'm looking forward to
that's
Final Fantasy 16.
yeah. I'm looking forward to God of War Ragnarok. I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 16, and looking forward to what I don't know to look forward
I
to.
mean, not that I'll get to play most of them because I don't have a PS5, but I can always go over and play it with friends or watch streams of it. Um,
Yeah, you don't have a PS5 yet.
I,
You can get one. You can
given
get
my
one
health,
eventually.
given my health, chances are I probably won't ever end up spending the money on one because I'm not going to last that much longer. And there are more important things for me to buy. But who knows? I might win one in a contest or something. Uh, I still enter those things. Or who knows?
So,
Maybe the kid will do something good enough. I'll gift him one for a holiday or birthday or something. Although he still wants an Xbox, so who knows?
ah,
uh, okay, we're going to move on over to I think it's the last straight topic before we get into media. This is a real short one. It's a Kickstarter. We usually like to promote our Kickstarter brethren. This one's for me. And this one, I'm actually scrolled all the way bottom. This is a neat little niche thing. It's metallic Christmas tree dice set.
what?
Okay. Each it had a $5,000 goal. It's made uh 20 almost 24 times that. Already with 7 days ago. I don't know how long the actual Kickstarter was
Wait,
initially.
is this? I need to see this product. Is this an actual like rolling dice, or is it
No,
just
no,
a
I'm
tree?
get I'm going to get into that.
Okay, okay.
It is a tree that's a stack, and it represents a D4, a D6, a D8, a D10, a percentile, a D12, and a D20. You basically hit the little star button on the top. They start to free
Oh,
spin. There's a little arrow on the base to point out which one you're going. Now you have the option of either going with the arrow or stopping it with your finger and then using the number that your finger landed on as the number. It's supposed to free spin. I'm not going to run any of the videos because of possible copyright infringement. Although probably something out of the Kickstarter wouldn't get dinged,
yeah. Yeah,
but we don't know
Kickstarter
if
thing probably wouldn't.
they've got any soundtracks or anything in there that I might need permission for. So
That's true.
that's my worry. Now, it is all aluminum, and right now the base set only had two colors, but there were several colors added in as stretch goals, and I probably made all their stretch goals. I was down in the stretch goal area. See, I think the highest stretch goal. Okay, there's a $100,000 pledge stretch goal. Okay, they're not quite at the 150,000 pledge stretch goal yet, but they've got a nice like aqua blue with red numbers that
Hmm.
was added. They've got a silver with gold font, a blue with red font, a gold with red font. This one I think looks really sharp for stretch goals that they've already unlocked. They got 7 days to go. Now, what's really impressive, I think, other than some of these that we've seen, is this one, the rainbow. I think that one might be a cool one too. And that is the last stretch goal at 300,000. Now, do I think they'll get to that one? I don't know. But that would be an interesting stretch goal to
They've
reach.
got they've got 7 days, and they're at what 100 and something thousand,
114. Uh,
114,000.
I think it was like 114,000 is what it was. Uh,
Yeah.
now, there's also some other dice that you can get it through their backers thing. If you back this, you can order some of their other dice at different costs, and they show you some of the sets. And they even give you a discount code for going to their web store to get 20% off on their web store for things. They've also got these fidget little dreidels, basically, little tops
The
to,
spinning
to
tops.
to spin in between your turns, just to keep you occupied and not grabbing your cell phone all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so there's little fidgets. Now, the one downside to see to this is the cost. I mean, because dice, we don't typically think of spending this much money on dice because a single one of them, the set is $65 if you back it. And then when you
Yeah.
don't back it, it's $85. But then again, their main thing is they want to build a mold to do it because it's going to cut their costs. Because right now, if they do it the way they're made these example ones, because they've already said that the final product is going to be even better quality than the examples. Because the examples they don't even have the molds made yet. But if they can make the really good molds, then they can do it at the $65 and $85 retail price. But otherwise, it's more like $120 for the Kickstarter price it would have been. So that's one of
Oh,
the reasons. But I mean, being all aluminum and shiny and with heavy bases, and I think they showed it in somebody's hand or next to some other dice, so you can kind of see the relative size in one of the
yeah.
pictures. Where's that pictures? I know there was one. Maybe it's up further.
Yeah. I think I saw one further down that had it in someone's hand. I think it's further down. It's somewhere in here.
It had a hand or it had other dice. That's got the tops. Oh, there. That one's got other dice. So it shows you it makes a nice centerpiece, and it's not going to mention a specific Christmas year, so it becomes an ongoing kind of Christmas thing instead of just being a single Christmas use kind of item. Now that's got
Yeah.
good and bad. If it put a specific year on it, you might make it a collector's item, and then every year you might want to get a new one.
Yeah.
But then by not putting the year, people can get one, and then every Christmas bring it out for the Christmas season, then retire it when the Christmas season's not going, so it doesn't get all worn out, and you just put it up on a display case. Um, but I mean, it looks really neat with the dragons on either side of it in that picture. Actually, it's my favorite picture of it there is because of it, even though
Yeah.
it's not my favorite color scheme. I think they should have done this one, but with like the gold and red, or the
That
red,
gold and red was slick.
or
It
the
was like
red
an
and
Iron Man tree.
or the red and green, because red and green is the traditional Christmas colors. But the
Yeah.
gold with the red font, I think, is the sharpest looking, other than the rainbow. Um, and so I really think that if they'd have put that one in this picture, it would have really been sharp. They got a little nice carrying case box thing that looks really cool. It looks like it's got a little snug padding inside to keep it from rattling around in there. Gives it a little bit of height too, and you can leave the front lid off to display it still. Yeah, here it is in the hand. See how big it is.
Yeah.
And I just think it's you see, there's the little arrow in the base that kind of points to where your result is when you roll the dice. The only thing, the downside of this is, like, if you have to roll multiples of the same die, you have to roll them one at a time, or you have to
Yeah.
add other dice to your roll, because unfortunately this one only has one of each denomination of dice. But so this red and gold one here is not bad either. I like this color scheme too. But I really like the reverse, the gold with the red font is my favorite.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a neat one. We're coming in on the holiday season. Um, and I wanted to get us a Kickstarter to recommend this time around.
If this gets funded, or is the expected delivery time supposed to be before the holiday?
Let's see. That's a good question. November 2021 estimated delivery.
All right then. Perfect.
So yeah, that it's right before the holidays. If they can
Plenty
get
of
you,
time.
and that's anywhere in the world, so you can back it from Australia, New Zealand, Africa, wherever, and they'll just charge you shipping. And like I said, the minimum pledge to get one of the actual dice is $65, and then the let's just back it pledge is usually defaults to 10 on this one. So it's a nice little Kickstarter. We like to recommend a few Kickstarters throughout the year. I generally only back one Kickstarter a year, so I don't know if this one will be one I'll back or not. I've already backed mine this year, actually, and I'm already tempted to back, like, I think 6 others just from our show alone. So this will probably not make the cut. Being on a fixed disability income the way I am. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on from there. We're going to go to my vault pick for media, and then we'll go right into the regular media.
All right.
Now, my vault pick this time is inspired by my recent email that told me what dropped on HBO this month, which is the full Evil Dead trilogy, the original Ash and the Evil Dead movies, which is Evil Dead 1 and 2, and then The Army of Darkness with Bruce Campbell himself in all his glory. Man, they can pull off any line, and it still seems good from him. And probably one of the seminal film series that made Sam Raimi who he is today. Kind of put him on the map movie-wise. It started with just a really low-budget film, The Evil Dead, which was popular but not super popular. Then
if I remember right, the first movie basically was paid for out of pocket between Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi working together.
pretty much. Um, and then Evil Dead 2 came out, and it was wildly more popular than Evil Dead 1. And that's really what put it on the market. And then Evil Dead 2 ended in a cliffhanger to set up for Army of Darkness, which is, Evil Dead 3. And Army of Darkness blew the other two way out of the water when it came out. And they became super cult classics. I mean, they get whispered in the same circles as Rocky Horror Picture Show and Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal.
I do think that I like Evil Dead 1 more than Evil Dead 2, but
But
it's
then,
on Evil Dead 2, was Bruce Campbell the only human being in the whole movie?
pretty much
I think the
in
whole
two,
movie, I think it was only him and him just dealing with animatronics for the whole movie.
right?
It was a wild one.
Well, Evil Dead 2 is when he introduced the chainsaw hand. And
Yeah.
then Evil Dead 3, he went back into the medieval times era, fighting the Deadites, and actually swapped out his chainsaw hand for a mecha hand. It's, like a bionic hand almost.
Yeah.
And he finishes like groovy. And it was just great. And I
It,
mean, the corniness, the fun, campy flavor of it, the horror that's so over the top, um, makes this probably one of the most important horror movie franchise that you'll ever see. I rate this above just about all of them. I mean, I definitely rate it above like the Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Leatherface stuff, and it's easily better than Freddy Krueger or Chucky as well. And I love Freddy and I love Chucky, but uh, when it comes down to it, Evil Dead really made horror movies fun, um, and kind of was a parody of a horror movie without being an overt parody like Scream would be.
did you see the did you see the Evil Dead reboot that they did a few years ago?
Yeah, I watched the
Around like
reboot.
2015 or so?
I watched the reboot, and I also watched the TV series Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
I
I
it pretty
haven't had a
much.
chance to watch the TV show yet, but I want to.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Anything where they put Evil Dead on the logo, I'm probably going to watch. The remake wasn't great in my opinion, but that's partly because it wasn't Bruce Campbell, and I think, like so many movies of a cult standing, it's really
Yeah.
hard to replace the
I
seminal actor.
So Bruce Campbell only made a brief cameo appearance in that movie,
Yeah,
but
he
I
did a
do think he
cameo.
did. Yeah, but I do think he did a fair amount of behind the scenes work on it. You know?
Yeah, it's just not having him play Ash.
Yeah,
Nobody else could step into that role and pull off the lines that Bruce could pull off.
yeah.
Bruce
You know,
Bruce could say something like, "This is my boomstick," and people might chuckle, but it's chuckling with you, not at you. Anybody else does is like they roll their eyes and chuckle and says, "Yeah, what a wannabe Bruce Campbell." And so that's the thing. Bruce Campbell steps into a role, and it doesn't matter how ludicrous the role is. I mean, only Bruce Campbell could have pulled off Bubba Hotep, for instance, which he
so
wrote, directed, and starred in.
so yeah, Sam Raimi, the director and I think writer of these movies, he also made for people who weren't familiar with his other work. This was made by the guy who made the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire.
And the
Um,
Darkman trilogy
yeah, he did the Darkman movies, which I believe wasn't that Liam Neeson playing Darkman?
in the first one.
The first one, okay.
And the
And
first one,
then
and then the second and third is the guy that played uh, um, the Master Disguise from GI Joe, Zoltan. Oh,
I never watched the GI Joe movie. It didn't appeal
oh,
to me much.
the guy who played Emotep,
Enotep
the mummy.
from The Mummy. Okay,
Yeah, the guy who played
okay,
Emotep took over for Darkman in 2 and 3, but
gotcha. You
but
know, I
Liam
can see
Neeson was
that.
in the first one.
Uh,
Uh,
Sam Raimi also made the. Sam Raimi also did the. What was that? The Drag Me to Hell, which was a pretty good horror movie. It was exceptional actually. And then he's currently working on the Doctor Strange sequel.
yeah, and Sam Raimi also did the Bruce Campbell TV show where he played Union Jack. Um, can't remember the name of the show anymore, but it was in the same time period as Hercules, Xena, Cleopatra 2525. Um, and he's done a lot of things like that. And of course, his movies always, Sam Raimi always fits a spot in for Bruce Campbell and his brother Ted. Ted Raimi and Bruce Campbell are in every one of Sam Raimi's movies in some capacity.
Yeah.
And that's what's great. Because, of course, when Sam and Ted were growing up, Bruce Campbell was their babysitter. Uh,
Is that their history? Bruce
yes,
Campbell was their babysitter.
he was their babysitter and one of their best friends, but he was the one that babysat them when they were growing up.
That
So,
is funny.
yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, let's put
Yeah.
my babysitter in my movie.
Yeah.
And they've had a
Hey,
long lasting friendship because of it.
they built a career off of that.
They
So
did
yeah.
because
So these are the movies that built their careers,
and
and
Raimi is such a
they,
great writer director, but I think without the influence of Bruce Campbell, his movies would never have gone to the cult status.
yeah,
You know, because no matter how great you are, if you don't have the right actor for the role, you don't hit that. You don't go over that line into cult status. It takes something special to hit cult status, and you usually
yeah,
can't predict that. You know, you
yeah,
try and you try and you try and you just hope, but you're rolling the dice. But with a phenom like Bruce Campbell as his main actor, he had pushed himself over. Another interesting story on Sam Raimi before we go ahead. When he wrote the Darkman movie, the first one, it's because he wanted to do Spider-Man, but he was relatively unknown at the time. So did Darkman to prove he could do a superhero movie.
yeah. Now, don't blame Sam Raimi for the mistakes of Spider-Man 3.
Oh, because
I've
he was
read about
forced.
that. Like, yeah, he was forced to do a lot of the things that didn't work in that movie.
He
Like the
didn't want to touch
executives of
Venom.
Sony.
He didn't want to touch
Yeah,
Venom. For one thing, Venom, although he's a popular Spider-Man villain and slash antihero, Venom is not one of Raimi's favorites, and he didn't want to write for Venom. The studio insisted that he write for Venom in the third movie.
yeah. The studio insisted having all three villains. They wanted to have Sandman, New Goblin, and Venom all three in it. And
Yeah.
really, if you would have taken any one of those three out, the movie could have worked. And I think Venom should have been saved for a fourth movie.
Venom should have almost had a movie all his own with a minor sidekick, maybe. You know,
Hmm.
like you could have had Venom and Sandman together, but then you would not have needed to bring Goblin in,
Yeah,
and you would have really needed to feature. And the other thing they needed to do, really, if they were going to do Venom in the Spider-Man direct stories, is they needed to introduce Venom properly out of Secret Wars. You know, because
yeah,
that's really where Venom got his start was in Secret Wars on Battle World when everybody was going after the end of Battle World and they went to get there was one of the machines in the area that
yeah,
made costumes, and everybody got their repaired or new versions of their costumes. Then Peter Parker went in to do it, and he went in by himself, so he went to the wrong machine, and it was actually the containment unit for the Venom symbiote. And so then he came back with the Venom symbiote. And that would have, I thought, especially with comic book fans, would have synergized more. Not that the Eddie
Yeah.
Brock version in Sony now is not phenomenal.
Yeah. I
Tom
was going to
Hardy is
say
an
the version of
excellent
the story,
Venom.
I I read the comics later,
Uh
but the
huh.
version of the story I first learned was from the cartoons. And I felt the cartoon did a good job with it too, even though it was different.
Yeah.
And in the
Well,
cartoon, the symbiote was attached to a space shuttle that was crash landing in New York that Spider-Man helped stop and save people, and got it stuck to him from that. And
with
so it was a much shorter version of the story that explained how he got the suit. Um, and that would have made more sense than it just coming from an asteroid that happened to land a few hundred feet from Spider-Man without Spider-Man even noticing it landing nearby.
yeah,
So
as an
yeah, the Venom
afterthought,
bit was shoehorned in. Yeah,
it was afterthought, and but anyway, we're not discussing Venom right now because Venom will be up for discussion in
yeah,
October, and oh my
yeah.
God, we might have to dedicate a whole episode to that. I don't know. that's that's Venom and Carnage with Woody Harrelson as
All
Carnage. Oh my God. Anyway, so we're going to go into our media now, guys.
right.
Just a reminder to everybody: at this point in time, if you do not like spoilers, then you probably want to go find somewhere else to be because
E-
this is the
e-
spoiler part of our show.
I do want to say before we start talking about the spoilers stuff, I do want to say some non-spoilery stuff about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yeah, we can go
Uh,
ahead and
it-
do that in the beginning instead of the end, since
yeah,
it's not going to be spoiler fed. Partly because I haven't seen it yet.
yeah. So I got to see it over the weekend. I saw it Sunday at noon, and I got to watch it on the big IMAX screen, so that was pretty great. And the it was in a lot of ways it felt like Jackie Chan action flicks. Um, for a good chunk of the movie. Whenever there'd be action stuff. But I just want to give some non-spoiler thoughts about it. It's got some awesome, martial arts, Jackie Chan inspired action sequences. It's got some fantastical elements to it. It's got incredible character development, and I mean I've only seen it the once, so I can't really place it anywhere. But I feel like it's one of the best Marvel films we've gotten so far, and that is high praise. Being Marvel, like
Well,
Infinity War, is still my favorite movie ever. But
I mean,
man, this Shang-Chi movie,
in a
I went into it.
franchise that includes Infinity Wars, Endgame, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man: Homecoming. I mean,
So,
there's so many greats in that franchise. All three Iron Man.
I'll be honest. I don't know Shang-Chi well. I've not read a Shang-Chi comic. I've read a few comics that have Shang-Chi in them. I've seen him appear in like Doctor Strange comics and Avengers comics, etc. But I've never actually read Shang-Chi comics. I don't know his story
Well,
well.
the Shang-Chi, there
Prior to this
was
film,
he didn't have a lot of just Shang-Chi title comics. It was Legend of Master of Kung Fu
yeah,
was the Shang-Chi comic, and
but I
then
didn't read those comics.
he's also been in Heroes for Hire recently because he
Mm.
did a lot of work with Iron Fist.
So I went into this not having high expectations for or high enthusiasm for Shang-Chi, but I was expecting a quality movie from Marvel.
Right.
And so I was still expecting to enjoy the movie, despite not knowing the character. Because, I mean, I didn't know the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I love that movie. And this blew all my expectations out of the water. I was gleeful, just, and I don't want to say why or what it was, but I was just like, "Yee!" like kind of moments
He had a
watching this
squee
film.
moment. He had a squee
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. I had a squee moment or two watching this movie. It was so great. It was like perfect
You temporarily became
for
a
me.
teen fangirl.
um. So, and I was reading yesterday. I was reading yesterday on Rotten Tomatoes that it is the highest rated by audience score Marvel film to date with a 98% positive score.
And an
Which,
interesting thing they did about, I mean, that's great score,
yeah,
is the changes they made from that in the comic book that are already public knowledge. Like the 10 rings here are bracelets and armlets, not rings on the hand, which, as everybody knows who watches the character in the comic books and even in the animated series, the Mandarin had 10 rings on his fingers.
yeah,
And that was the thing. They were kind of closer to the gemstones and the Infinity Gauntlet than these bands of power that they've turned them into for Shang-Chi in the Legend of the Ten Rings.
yeah. But they
Um,
work. It works so well. It works really
and
well.
from what I've heard of the descriptions so far online, yeah, I've tried not to watch any of the videos other than previews
Yeah.
because I don't want the spoilers. I hate the fact that I'm going to have to wait like 45 days. I may not wait 45 days. My best gay, Crystal, um, and me might go see it this Friday. Um, maybe. If our schedules align and the stars align, we might go see it at the
Yeah.
Alamo Friday. Um, but yeah, it was inspired. The Legends of Kung Fu, Masters of Kung Fu comic books were inspired by, among other things, Bruce Lee,
Hmm.
and they had permission to use the character Fu Manchu from some like literature from like Agatha
I
Christie
was
and
wanting
stuff.
to add, and I don't remember his name exactly, but one of the actors in the film worked with Bruce Lee,
Right. Yeah. And,
and
and it's
and the choreographer worked with Jackie Chan.
right. And the thing is, it's very linked to the real world, but fantasized. Which is one of the things Marvel does really well. They took things from actual world and our actual mythology, and they turn them into comic book things. So, like for instance, Thor. Thor is from Norse mythology,
Hmm.
but Marvel went and converted Thor into a superhero and Asgard into a planet in the Marvel universe, and they made it work.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one of Marvel's skills. It's one of the things that Stan Lee and his various cohorts in Marvel in the early years really did right. A lot of the books that are attributed to Stanley didn't even really work on so much, except for being like an executive editor or anything. But Stan Lee still had an influence over the entire Marvel universe. And one of the things that he did was he insisted that they use as many real world elements as they could and make them fit his world in a way that was not seamless necessarily, not mundane, but believable.
Yeah.
And that's what brings the magic of the Marvel universe together. That's why where DC universe relies on over the top and bright primary colors because it's the four color comic book era when both of the comic books started. DC really focused on those four primary color type spreads. Superman was all about the red and blue, you know,
Yeah.
or they focused on the very noir stuff like Batman and the Phantom Stranger and John Constantine. Marvel, on the other hand, went this almost pseudo realistic route instead of the over the top route. Even though their superheroes and their villains could be over the top when it came to power, they tended to not do the Superman thing. They didn't have the one character
Yeah.
that had every power under the sun. Or if they did
Yeah.
do that, that
So,
was much further down the track, and then it was in somebody like Franklin Richards. you know,
hmm.
if they were going to give
So
somebody
yeah,
omni power, it's Franklin Richards or Legend or somebody like that.
yeah. So, yeah, I just want to give everyone encouragement to go out and see it. It's kind of smashing the box office right now, which is great news. Um, anyone that can should watch this soon. I've seen some hateful rhetoric of people online that were trashing it before it even released, which is unfair. Uh, don't believe the stories of it being a flop because it's doing
No,
great.
it's not.
Uh,
Now,
yeah, it's doing great.
Godzilla Willie has joined me in my chat. He did start out by saying Tobey Maguire's Doc Octopus showing up in Spider-Man No Way Home trailer was a surprise. And then he asked, how's it
Yeah,
going? Now, in actuality, you may not have been following things closely, Godzilla Willie, because uh, Molina reprising his role as Doc Ock and Jamie Foxx reprising his role as Electro has been like one of the earliest confirmed things. It wasn't even a leak; it was a confirmed.
yeah.
Uh,
The actors themselves said it in an
yeah,
interview or whatever,
yeah,
and they're like, "Oh
those
yeah, I'm going
two.
to be in Spider-Man."
It's still up in the air whether we're going to see either Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire. It's still up in the air. They're purposely keeping that very vague, just like they're keeping
Still don't know.
vague who the sixth Sinister Six might be.
We also don't know which Green Goblin we're getting.
Because all we saw was a pumpkin bomb. Now
Yeah,
the assumption is it's Willem Dafoe,
yeah. But we've had
but
three different Green Goblins
yeah,
now,
I
and
mean it could be Franco. It could be
yeah, we,
whatever. We've also only kind of seen a sandstorm kind of thing to indicate Sandman. So Sandman might actually not be in it at all. That sandstorm could have just been, part of Smoke and Mirrors, and we might introduce another member of the Sinister Six. Or even
yeah,
though all the rumors of the Sinister Six being in this movie are abounding, there might not be the full Sinister Six yet. It might just be the starting of the Sinister Six.
yeah,
Because the only confirmed villains, absolutely confirmed, are Doc Ock and Electro. You know,
yeah.
Nobody
And we
else
have
is
to have
truly confirmed. Oh, and Green Goblin because of the pumpkin
the
bomb.
bomb. Yeah,
Those
and
three
then
are the only ones confirmed. Then we can anticipate, because of the previous movie, that Vulture is probably going to be in it. But that's not even a guarantee. He might still
yeah,
be locked up because he's supposed to also appear in Morbius the Living Vampire, which means he may not be in this Spider-Man. Or he might be, and he might be the link between them. He might end up
yeah.
linking Spider-Man, Morbius, and Venom, which is
Who
what the
knows?
heaviest rumors are. So yes, Spider-Man No Way Home, which is a fantastic teaser trailer right now. It's long for a teaser. Um, is definitely going to be one of those movies to watch out for as information starts to drib and drab in. But thanks for bringing that up. And now
Yeah.
we are definitely going to go into our spoiler section
Spoilers
of our
section.
media, as we're already at 9:34. So we got just under a half an hour to, if we want to get in on time, which never happens. Um, and we're going to go ahead and click back over to that with
Legends of Tomorrow is our first one, right?
Legends of Tomorrow is how we always kind of start this shindig off. So we'll start with the Legends of Tomorrow. Now, let's see. In the Legends of Tomorrow, we've got them. They'd finished the last episode with all the thing with the babies, and then they'd called the mother back to the ship, and she'd helped rewire things and stuff. And then
Yeah,
Bishop stole their ship, and they were stranded in that old West Texas town of Odessa with Spooner's mother, trying to see what they can do to possibly help John Constantine and wake back up the fountain and help
yeah,
Spooner from dying. All
yeah.
that was left
So,
of John Constantine was a mushroom,
yeah,
which, I mean, granted, it wasn't a Bayrod focused episode, which is great because I don't like to focus on Bayrod, but he is the appropriate person to talk about eating shrooms. So,
yeah,
so at least the part he did play in it was appropriate because he's a stoner.
oh,
That's
yeah,
all he really is. He's freaking Jay and Silent Bob and Legends of Tomorrow,
yeah.
except not as interesting. Let's put it this way: Silent Bob has
Um.
better dialogue.
So yeah, the previous episode ended with Rory exploding to rescue one of his babies,
Right?
as an egg. Constantine dying because he poisoned himself with
The
Bishop's
Bishop tricking him.
toxin stuff that also was killing the fungus mushroom Fountain of
Fountain.
Imperium crap. Which that being wounded was then also
The only thing
killing
stopping the
Spooner.
aliens from coming out, and it killed
Yep.
Spooner because Spooner's linked.
And yeah, and it was the one thing that prevented aliens from invading. So then pods of those lizard creatures that killed Sarah Lance started landing on Earth. It was all
First, just a couple of scouts, but then when they actually landed, oh my god, it looked like freaking a lizard version of the scene from freaking Starship Troopers. I mean, swarm. Now
yeah, it was a
they
whole
they they
swarm
didn't
of
know
those
what to
things.
do, and of course Bishop could anticipate a lot of Sarah Lance's things because of his sharing of DNA and everything with Sarah Lance.
Yeah,
So they had to do what Sarah wouldn't do. So they decided to have a wedding.
yeah.
In the middle of all this crisis, let's
Well,
go ahead and
okay.
have a wedding.
They did a couple of things that Sarah didn't want to do necessarily that she wouldn't normally do. One was they traveled to the future to adopt the young version of Bishop before he went evil, and they found him while he was developing Eva Prime, the first Eva clone.
To use him to develop
So
the
they got him to
antidote
come
for
and help.
Spooner.
Yes. So they had him developing an antidote for Spooner. Um, Constantine's body's turned into a mushroom, which Bayrod
Took a
ate
bite out of,
some of which, and then claimed he could talk to Constantine through it.
and then
Which
eventually
he
Sarah
took a
took a
bite.
bite.
Yeah, eventually Sarah took a bite, and then it turned out, Bayrod was right. She was able to then talk to Constantine from beyond the grave through it, basically.
Zari even had a
Young,
touching kind of
young,
finale with Constantine at the end of the
yeah,
show. Um,
young Bishop created a serum that worked on Spooner, got her out of her coma-like state.
mhm.
Um, and just before the alien invasion was done, the Sarah Lance and Ava got married, had their whole little thing. Although they didn't get to say their I do's and kiss yet. Like they didn't actually get to finish the wedding when
Because
Bishop
the
showed
invasion
back up,
happened. Yeah.
and the invasion started with all the reptile things, all those lizard monsters. And they realized quickly that they were so far outnumbered that they couldn't just fight them out in the field. So they ran inside the house and boarded it up, and it was like a classic horror movie thing with monsters trying to break into the windows and the doors.
Rory
Um,
actually ran out of ammunition on his flame gun.
um, when Sarah Lance had ate from the mushroom that allowed her to talk to Constantine, Constantine told her what seemed really profound at the time, that we're all connected. And somehow through that understanding, Spooner suddenly had the ability to trade people's powers around. So someone got stung by one of those reptile things that killed them. They take Spooner would take the healing powers from Sarah and give it to them for a little bit so that they can heal. And
Somebody
then
about to be
someone's about to get
attacked
hit
and
with
give him
some
steel.
yeah, someone's about to get attacked by something, give them steel skin. Some and then they have magic fire trading off from
Astra.
the girl from Astra to Sarah. It was kind of an interesting whole thing with all that all going on. And then someone was like, "Well, at least we got Sarah." I think was like, "At least we got married before we died and the world ended." And then old Steele was like, "Actually, the wedding didn't finish. You're not married. You didn't get to say your I do's." And so then Rory's baby mama, the alien lady, took off her little disguise and used her tentacles to like hold off all the doors she could on her own, while the whole rest of the group got into a circle around the marrying couple to say their I do's and the kiss for their
Didn't
to
that
finish
happen
their wedding.
before the actual linking of everybody happened? Because I think that's what unlocked the link.
No, what happened? The kiss and finishing the wedding is what unlocked the Fountain of Imperium, deciding they were worthy again, and it's
Okay, yeah, that's
because
right.
like injecting Spooner repaired the fountain, but then the fountain didn't consider them
Worthy.
worthy of saving. But because the two of them chose to get married, and the whole group was expressing love like that, the fountain then spread out its magical glowy spits and chased off
Spore.
all the
Yeah.
invading aliens. Yeah, it's spores,
Yep.
saving the world.
And then, of course, we get the wonderful line from future bishops like, wait, what? No, am I the bad
And
guy?
he's like, "That's fine. I'll kill you myself anyway." And he has some
Yeah.
kind of high-tech futuristic gun. And then about that time, the eggs of Rory and that lady Kayla's babies
Hatch
hatch,
into
and all the
squidlings.
babies crawl all over Bishop and eat him instantly.
They're
And
squidlings
then,
and they're so cute.
yeah, Gary's like, he's like, whatever their species is, they're so hungry when they're first born that they'll devour anything they first see. Well, did I
And
not mention that earlier?
and then one of his daughters climbs up onto Rory's bald forehead and just looks adorable. Up
Yeah.
oh my god, that was
So
great. And
Rory
so
now has 49 total children. 48 of these squid ones, and then a
his
human
daughter.
child. Yeah, human
Now,
daughter. And
uh,
then
okay.
there's one last scene with Constantine where Zari gets to see Constantine in the forest, and he reveals that he was able to get himself restored after he died by making a deal with a demon. So now his soul is owned by another demon, but he's back to life and has his magic again. But he can no longer work with the legends and teleports away.
Right.
Has a touching little moment there with Zari.
Yep. Now, the other thing we need to point out to people who may not have noticed, this was the season finale.
Yeah,
So there is no Legend of Tomorrow next week. Next week, I already looked ahead to see what was scheduled in the time slot, and it's like the MTV Music Awards or MTV Team. It's one of the MTV Awards shows.
yeah,
So we don't know what's in there 2 weeks from now, but next week is MTV Awards, and it'll probably just go into reruns until they're ready to start launching the next season again, which is only November.
yeah,
So we don't have that long to watch because this season ran so late because of COVID. Um, and
yeah,
we still have things to watch, so we're doing good. But
yeah.
on to our next
You're fine.
property of choice, which is going to be Supergirl.
Ba, 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 ba.
Ba, 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 ba. Now, in Supergirl, first off, we talk about Dreamer. Dreamer, uh, at the very beginning of the episode, they wake up in the real world having Dreamer pulled Nixie out of the dream world. And
Yeah,
what?
yeah, I was just saying, yeah, yeah. She pulls
Yeah,
Nixie out of the
Nixie out of
dream
the dream
world to the
world.
real world.
And Nixie then tells her, okay, yeah, you're going to get your time, the 24 hours with your mother. Although, oops, didn't tell you, but during that time, you're going to basically be locked in a little pocket dimension with your mother. So you can't interact with anybody else. So,
Yeah,
so she spends
Uh,
24 hours with her mother. Also, it uses the last of Nixie's power, so Nixie's now powerless.
yeah. Nixie keeps up her bargain, even though it makes her powerless to pull it off.
Because as an imp, she has to. Now, then Nixie finds a. Okay, you remember the collector from the episode where Dreamer
The prom episode,
and
yeah,
Brainiac 5 went back in time, and the collector had come and wanted to collect a Kryptonian for his menagerie. Well, the collector's sidekick has been in and out of like small time jails and stuff, doing little things. He's not been connected to the collector, but he decides he wants to start his collection up again. He wants to start a collection up again to kind of get back in the eye of the collector, maybe team up with the collector again.
yeah,
And Nixie hooks up with him and says, "Hey, I'll help you catch Kryptonian."
yeah,
But I don't have any powers. Because first he captured her and she's, "Hey, I have no powers, so I'm not a really good exhibit for you." It's like, "Well, shit, you can go."
yeah.
She's
He
like, "No,
scans her,
let,
and her power level is at 0.05%. And he's like, "Oh, you're useless. You can go."
And then, but she says, "No, I want to be partners with you, and I'm going to help you catch the Kryptonian, Supergirl." It's like, "How are you with no powers?" It says, "Well, all I need is an engineer." So they go and they kidnap an alien engineer, and she gets into working on her Trojan horse bomb thing, and that's what she calls it. Is be a nice Trojan horse. You don't know what she means by it, but done. Now, back to the Super Friends, because they are the Super Friends. I don't care what you want to call them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back at the halls of justice, uh, meanwhile, back at the halls of justice. Anyway, because both voices were accurate.
I like the.
Uh,
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
meanwhile, at the
Aquaman is
Hall
eating
of
a
Justice.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich because he's useless. No. Uh,
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom.
anyway, meanwhile, back at the halls of justice, they find out from the ex-con from the last episode, little brother, he's acting out again, and it comes to find out that he's not going to get to go with his big brother because somehow his big brother lost the place he was going to be moving into. And as they dig deeper and they talk to the big brother, that they find out that the apartment complex that he was going to get an apartment in had been bought by a big corporation, and they were going to gentrify it, basically
Yeah.
fix it
Or
up,
is
make it
about to
for.
be bought by a.
Yeah, it
It
was
has
about
to
to
be
be. It
zoned.
had to be
City
rezoned, but
council has to vote to rezone it to sell it to this big tech company.
and they're doing that to gentrify the neighborhood because it's supposed to improve the neighborhood for everybody in it. Of course, everybody in it, as far as they're concerned, does not include the ex-cons who may be actually trying to get a first start,
Yeah.
and other low-income people who just can't seem to get by otherwise. And during this time, Supergirl and Brainy have been doing PSAs, public service announcements, mainly about eating vegetables. And Brainy has been
Well,
telling his story of how he was becoming like a junk food junkie and how it was making
yeah.
him less able to do his work as a superhero. But now he includes his vegetables, and all the kids are really doing. And when Brainy does the commercials, he does it with his green face. So, so Brainy's like so more alien there than you
Yeah.
normally are used to seeing him as just Brainy blending in Brainy. Um, and Supergirl's been there for each of those PSAs. Well, then she hears what's happening. She had promised these guys that she was going to make sure that the system worked for them this time, that she wasn't going to just leave them hanging. So she goes and she tries to talk to the councilwoman who's leading the initiative to gentrify the apartment building because of that. And she tries to convince her that, yes, it's great that you're trying to improve the neighborhood as a whole, bringing big business in, bringing more jobs in, and all that. That's all great on the one hand, but it leaves on the other hand all these other people high and dry. They've been counting on this, and they could also help build up the neighborhood. And just because somebody has been in jail or something doesn't mean that they're beyond redemption. And in fact, some people were driven to do criminal acts just because it seemed like they had no other option, and that was his story. Well, she's seeing the gentrification, and she doesn't call it gentrification, but Kara flat out says that's gentrification, which, as we know, is
Yeah.
more of a negative term when you over ritz up a place to try to drive out the more common element who might be hard on their luck. But you know what? They're people too. And so she refuses to change her vote. Then she goes around to the other people in the city council who are going to vote, and pretty much nobody comes on over to her side. And then it gets explained to Kara by someone who'd watched her public service messages that her public services messages were so popular and got through to so many kids and stuff, not because Supergirl was there or because Brainy was there, but because Brainy told the story that was very personal to himself in relation to the message, which allowed other people to empathize and connect. And so she realized that she needed to connect the story to something personal. She shouldn't just come in there and say, "Hey, I'm Superman. Supergirl. I recommend this," and people aren't just going to blindly follow just because she recommends it. So they're at the building where they're doing the council meeting, and she comes in with Kelly Olson, who is of course the social worker that helps the son or the little brother of the ex-con. And right before the vote, actually brings up the brother to tell his story and how he explains that he grew up in the neighborhood and he used to, recognize everybody, remember where he grew up. Then his parents died and he was left with him having to raise his little brother. He had to drop out of school. And one of my eyes are off. Said, "Okay, that's because I'm almost completely blind in that eye, so that eye will go lazy sometimes. Sorry about that. Um, I'm not drunk. I just have basically a lazy eye because that eye is useless. So it kind of goes where it wants. Uh, um, no problem, Cranston. Anyway, so he tells his story and he links that story, and then in the midst, just as he ends his tale, and there's almost not a dry eye in the room. Um, and just to mention before we get there, Supergirl was also getting pushback from some of her fans because they're like, well, we want the neighborhood to improve. Why shouldn't we get the neighborhood better and stuff? Why do we need to cater to these ex-cons and stuff? You're always telling us that things are going to improve and life's going to get better. And just as they look like they're going to get better, you're trying to talk us into not letting it get better. not realizing that it needs to get better for everybody, not just for the middle class, but the lower class people, the people that have gotten very little employable skills because of possibly have been in jail for a little while and having to drop out early because of early parents' deaths and things. So when they linked the story up, it was not a dry eye in the house,
Except for the blonde lady
except for
who,
the blonde councilwoman who sees her dreams of bringing this big corporation in going up in a burst of flame.
yeah,
But then just then, Nixie launches her attack with that collector guy's ex-henchman. And it's a bomb. It's a cryo bomb. And come to find out, according to Brainiac and John Johns, it is a cryo bomb that is powerful enough to even freeze a Kryptonian.
yeah. Freeze a
And
Kryptonian forever, as
yeah,
they said.
forever, as they said. So uh,
along
they,
with along with what was it, a mile radius blast or so?
yeah, something like that. And then so the JLA show up, and while the rest of the JLA goes trying to evacuate everybody from the building,
Super Friends.
for
They're the Super Friends.
yeah, the
They're not
Super
the JLA or
Friends, the
the Super
JLA,
Friends.
the Super Friends, whatever you want to call it, they're the
It's
Super Friends.
JLA when we have a crossover episode, but it's the Super Friends when we're just the Supergirl people.
Yeah. So anyway, the Super Friends, sans the Wonder Twins, because we haven't got them yet, but
Yeah.
the Super Friends start to try to evacuate everybody. And an earlier concept there was Kelly was practicing in the practice gym of the Fortress of the Halls of Justice, and she was having real trouble learning this one combat move that Alex had been trying to teach her. And so she thought she was never going to get it. She was never going to be a good superhero just because she couldn't learn this one move. And um, in fact, this is what links up to the other point I'd made earlier. Kara explained to her that it wasn't that one move that made her a superhero. She went into this one combat and she was really impressed about how she used other people's strength and leverage against them when she fought. And instead of learning this one move, learning that one move is not important. It's the making it your own and just doing your best. And that convinced Kelly of her rightness of being the new Guardian. And then Kelly turned around and exposed to Kara the fact that why their public service announcements work so much is because Brainy related the real world personal story involved, and so that's an interlink. So anyway, now they're evacuating people from the building, and she saves the councilwoman not by any fancy move, but just by grabbing this corkboard off the wall and catching these ice spears this shattered glass that's coming at
Yeah,
her.
she uses a corkboard as a shield to protect herself and
Because she's not in
the
costume,
councilwoman.
so she don't have her guardian shield or helmet. Because everything
Yeah.
happened while she was working as social worker Kelly, not as guardian.
I don't know if they've refitted the outfit to fit her yet anyway.
Yeah, all we know is
Besides
the
the helmet.
helmet so far, yeah. But they had gone to the front, and there was no exit to the front, so they'd gone towards a fire escape in the back, and then they get to the fire escape, and Brainy calls his ship over to pick everybody up, and then just as everybody's loading up, he's like, "Nobody sit in my seat," because, he's Brainy.
Yeah. No one touch my chair.
Yeah, that's right. While Kara and John Johns use John uses his ability to phase through matter to move them down to the basement where they find the cryo bomb. And unfortunately, it's lead shielded, so Supergirl cannot see the internal workings to make sure she aims her heat vision in the right place to disable the bomb, so she just has to go for it. And at this point, now I'm thinking, in order to endear the older brother, he should have probably used his electromagnetic pulse power to stop the cryo bomb because it's an electrical device. electromagnetic pulse would have stopped the device from working, would have saved everybody, and would have endeared him to everybody there. So that's what I would have done. But I kind of understand after seeing the end of the episode why they didn't do that. But anyway,
Yeah.
they shattered the bomb, so they stopped it
With her heat vision.
with their heat vision, and everybody got out okay. Then they go onto the collector's ship and rescue the couple of people that have been captured by this collector guy, including Nixie, who pretends to have been a captive, not his partner. And she then goes to the basement where the bomb was and absorbs the ice crystals that have now been energized by Supergirl's heat vision, and that restores most of Nixie's power. So then Supergirl sees Nixie and it's like, oh my God, Nixie, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
she thought,
Jean brings to her that he detects an unusual, energy signature at the remains of the bomb. So
right,
Supergirl's like, I'll check on it on the way
check
home.
on the way home, right? And she sees Nixie there, and she's like, oh my goodness, I thought I'd left you in the Phantom Zone, because it turned out that she was still like a selfish imp.
Yeah.
Now,
and Nixie, snapped her fingers, froze Supergirl to the floor or to the street, and zapped her of her powers and disabled her communications, so she couldn't call for help. She couldn't break out of the ice and couldn't use any abilities against Nixie. Well, Nixie told her, how she was driven with purpose for so long in the Phantom Zone to eventually get out and get revenge on
kill
her father who trapped her there.
And specifically,
and now
kill her father.
Yeah, to kill her father. And now her new determination is to destroy everything Supergirl cares about or whatever.
Before
and then
going
she
back
snaps
to
her fingers.
the fifth dimension.
Yeah, before she goes back to the fifth dimension. Then she snaps her fingers and destroys that building that Supergirl spent the whole day trying to save for the
ex-con.
The ex-cons, yeah. Which the council finally agreed by the end of the episode to vote to not rezone it and let the criminals, the
low-income people,
that's what the councilwoman said. Yeah. The low-income people and the ex-convicts to live there.
And the ex-councilwoman specifically said, well, and she specifically said, you might have fooled everybody else, but I still think this is the wrong way to do it. And you'll pay for this. Basically, you'll pay,
Yeah.
Anyway,
but Nixie destroys it, and then she taunts Supergirl, saying, there's nothing you can do to stop me. The only thing that can beat magic is magic. Yeah, the only thing that can beat magic is magic. And then Supergirl yells out, Mr. Mxyzptlk! And then Mr. Mxyzptlk.
And Mxyzptlk arrived, and then cutscene.
Yeah. Cut credits.
Yeah,
he
which
appears,
means
and
we're going to open up next week with Mr. Mxyzptlk going versus his cousin Nixie. And as we all know, Mr. Mxyzptlk is one of the most powerful of the fifth dimensional beings. If the imps of the fifth dimension, Mxyzptlk is badass. And Nixie already mentioned that he's a cousin of hers, distantly related.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to see Mxyzptlk, which is one of my favorite Superman villains because of his magic.
Yeah, same here. Same here. So I got really excited when she yelled out his name. I was like,
and then
he shows up. Credits. Bam!
I was like, she voluntarily called Mxyzptlk? This is going to be awesome. Cutscene.
Yeah.
Damn it!
Yeah.
We got to wait till next week. Talk about a cliffhanger. Now, if they were to cut season at that, I mean, luckily this is the last season of Supergirl, so they couldn't do that to us. But if they'd have done that to us and had like an unforeseen cancellation, I'd have been really pissed.
Yeah.
But this makes it to where next week
Yeah,
is
next
going to
week
be
we get to see
epic.
Mixpedalic versus Nixie.
Right now, on to our next topic du jour, Stargirl. Now, Stargirl, we still have not ascertained if it's actually in the true Berlanti verse or not, so we'll not
Yeah.
conjecture on that right now. The start of the episode opens up with Cindy as a little girl,
I
and
need
she's
to I need to
having a
step
night.
away for just a minute, but you go ahead and continue talking about Stargirl. I'll be right back.
No problem. We open up with Cindy as a little girl who wakes up from a nightmare where she thinks her dad wants to turn her into a monster like him. And her mom shows up and says, "No, your dad is far away, doesn't know where we are. Don't worry about it," and stuff. And then as her mom closes the door and Cindy rolls over to go back to sleep, we see Dragon Master come out of the shadows. Then fast forward to modern times. Okay, and we've got Pat and uh, what's her name? Her mother showing up at the junkyard where Ben is the son because he's trying to buy a station wagon to make it as a getaway car for the team so he can do something to help. He wants to do something to help. And right before they'd gotten all the way there to where the son and Zeke were, Pat had been talking to I want to say her name's Catherine, um, about how alone Ben was feeling. I think it's Ben. Um, and so, Zeke's trying to sell him the car. He says, just for you guys, just this time, $50 off. Then he goes down to $75 off. And then he's like, they're like, can you excuse us? He's like, okay, but remember, you break it. And he says, I know, you buy. He says, hey, that's a good saying. I got to remember that. But it's been what Zeke always says anyway. And they end up talking, and he tells his son that they're going to have to work together on some project to help the JLA
ASA.
or JSA. Maybe you're right, JSA. Instead of just him getting like a getaway car or becoming a superhero or this or that. He wants to let him feel included, but at the same time, this way he can keep an eye on him. A little bit before that, actually, we did have Courtney coming back from patrol where she was looking for the Shade uh, to want to ask him some more questions about specifically Dr. McNider um, and Eclipso. And she's like 2 hours past curfew, and Pat's waiting in her bedroom because she was going to show her. He was going to show her some stuff, but of course she wasn't there, and they have a little bit of a very very soft argument. She agrees to not break curfew again. He tells her he's told her everything, but he still hasn't because he's a parent, and it's a parental prerogative.
Mm.
uh, and so on.
I do feel like in this scenario, not telling her is more dangerous than telling her.
Yeah, it's going to ultimately end up being that, which is kind of how it is. Pat specifically doesn't trust the Shade at all, but at least the Shade's putting his cards out there in the open. He's saying flat out, "I've killed people, I've done this, I've done that, but I'm a bad guy. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily an evil guy."
Yeah.
And that's the difference between him and the ISA. Um, then we have Courtney and Wildcat uh, on the way to school, passing by Icicle's son painting his mural for his dad, Gorgeous looking mural, by the way. Gorgeous looking mural. They really showcase the kid's talent as an artist. Um,
Yeah.
and Courtney kind of goes over there and flirts a little bit. Then they make it to school. It looks like rain because one of the things that Pat wanted to show her when she got home was that they could track Eclipso by the weather. Because if you look, the entire forecast for all of Nebraska, which is where they're at, is sunny and clear, except Blue Valley, which is covered in storm clouds, and that's Pat believes because of the Eclipso Black Diamond.
Yeah. And it's not just that it's covered by clouds; it's unexplained clouds that the
Unexplained in the middle,
meteorologist is
yeah,
confused about.
in the middle of all this sunshine, just this one little Blue Valley area has got these unexplained dark rolling storm clouds, and of course, that links up to when the kid's working on a mural. He looks up and says, "Yep, nope," and he packs his stuff up and heads back to school and sees his art teacher, and he's like, "Yeah, can I use the studio? It looks like the weather's going to get in the way of doing the mural." And the teacher's like, "Great." It's like, "Hey, how's your mural going? You know, and you're such a
Yeah.
great artist." A very supportive teacher,
Yeah.
and he actually sees pictures of Courtney
Yeah,
in
the
the
kid
kid's book.
manages to drop his book, his art sketchbook, and the teacher picks it up and sees drawings of sketches of Courtney, and
And he's like,
he's like,
"This looks
these
like
sketches
Courtney
look an
Whitmore."
awful lot like Corey Whitmore. Yeah,
And it's like, "Looks like you found your muse. I found my muse once. It was awesome." You know? And
yeah,
he basically tells him, if you can't find the words to say what you think, let your pictures tell your truth for you. Very,
yeah,
very much a arts teacher kind of thing to say. And then Courtney and what's her name, Wildcat. I can't remember what her real name is right now. Comes up behind, and he gets all flabbergasted and stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, let your pictures tell and stuff." Then he goes into the class. Later on, he starts hearing voices, and you see Cindy with the black diamond kind of influencing him. And so one of his eyes gets that black diamond glimmer in it. And now he starts hearing the voice of Eclipso as a deep, foreboding, "I'm your muse now," kind of a monstrous thing. And
yeah,
then his eyes kind of glaze over and he goes to start painting. And the next time you see the art room looks like a freaking bomb exploded. And there's
yeah.
all
Well,
these.
we also see we also end up seeing the teacher puking up paint,
Well, yeah, he was
blue and
puking up
yellow
paint
paint.
first before he started painting. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then he ended up, painting, and he started with black, and he's looked like he started just painting like a black cross. But as when they came back in, it looked like the whole art room had exploded with paint. And on
yeah,
every like paintable surface, there's now this crude black diamond painted.
yeah,
And Courtney and them come in there because they originally are supposed to meet up with Pat outside. They're supposed to wait for Pat, but then they see late in the
yeah.
evening that the art teacher's car is
Well,
still there. They're like, "Oh, he might be in trouble."
yeah, they were at the school because Pat hadn't figured out that the center point of the storms
Was the
is just
school
above the school. And
right?
so they were supposed to meet there, but then they saw the teacher's car and couldn't wait for Pat to get there and went in without him.
Yep. And anyway, they end up fighting with what looks like a living blob of paint. Uh,
Yeah.
and turns
It
out to
comes out of
be
the it
the
comes
teacher.
it comes out of the painting, yeah. It comes
Yeah,
out of
out
one
of
of the paintings, the Black Diamond painting, kind of like Freddy Krueger coming out of the walls in the old movies.
it's like Freddy Krueger meets the Blob. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then now all of the other uh, JSA members are experiencing hallucinations. Our man is seeing Solomon Grundy, and he's hitting and punching things. Uh, is saying which one's the monster, you or Solomon Grundy. Um,
Yeah. It had paintings
Beth is
of
sitting
him
there.
and paintings of Solomon Grundy.
Yeah, Beth is seeing her parents breaking up. Ripped a picture of her parents that's ripped down the middle, trying to put them back together and stuff. And Wildcat is seeing the couple of people that she was directly
Uh,
involved in killing, which was Brainwave and Brainwave's son.
yeah. And she's
And
experiencing the headaches that Brainwave used to cause whenever he would mess with her head.
she still gets from time to time when she feels guilt over their deaths.
Yeah.
Um, so they're all preoccupied. Courtney gets kind of attacked, but she kind of brushes hers off, partly because of her power over light in the staff. And then
Yeah.
she runs around the corner after the blob and attacks the blob with her light staff and sees part of the teacher coming out of the blob.
It's a fast moving blob.
It is a
Don't
very
be
fast moving blob.
don't let the name blob mistake you in pace.
It's
That
like,
thing can move quick.
yeah, don't think of it like the slow moving zombies of like George Romero time. Think of it as like, the blob is like really fast and shit, like the fast moving zombies of like Resident Evil.
Yeah.
uh,
So it's like lunging around,
yep.
extending out to make really long leaps down the hall and around the corner.
And the teacher's starting to come out of the blob a little bit, and he's seeing how all he can see is darkness, and it's all
Yeah.
dark. And she's like, "Well, reach for the light." And she brings the light from her staff and starts beaming it straight at him, and the blob's like eating it. And so the blob versus the light, and he reaches through the blob, touches the staff, and then kind of gets zapped, and he's unconscious on the floor, kind of leaking paint instead of blood. Uh, but she's eliminated Eclipso from the teacher.
Yeah. She basically she exorcised Eclipso from him.
And that stopped all
Leaving,
the other JSA members' hallucinations. Um, and everything. Now, also during this time, we see Cindy. At one point, she tried to recruit um, uh, Icicle's son, or she was going to, uh, and then grandmother Icicle came up and says, "Leave my boy alone," basically. And then she breathes out a breath of cold, so you know that she's got the cold powers of her son.
yeah.
In fact,
She
I think,
deliberately did it to scare Cindy, so Cindy realized, oh, you have the same ice power. All
yeah. So
right, I'll back off.
basically, they're not mutants more as they're like almost related to the ice giants of Norse mythology. They're Jotun, and
Yeah,
is kind of which is why, with their Norwegian background and all that, it all makes kind of sense if you know some of the backstory of Norse mythology.
yeah,
Um, and at one point, while he's painting on the mural, the boy even accidentally freezes his paintbrush. So he obviously
yeah,
is starting to inherit his dad's powers too, or come of age of his own version of the familial power.
yeah,
Um, but Cindy is basically convinced that he's a lost cause as far as joining the new Injustice Society she's putting together. So we flash back to the Injustice Society headquarters.
Well, you don't want to challenge Grandma Icicle.
Yeah, you don't know. But she goes, now we go back to the Injustice Society roundtable room, and we've got Sportsmaster's daughter saying, like, let's attack now and shit. And don't worry about him. He's a lost cause. We don't need him. And you've got Fiddler saying, yeah, let's attack now. And Cindy's like, nope, we got one more loose end, and throws down a picture of Pat Dugan's son. Because she's
Yeah,
still
Mike.
bound and determined to. Is it Mike? I don't know why I was calling him Ben.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mike. And so she's bound and determined to recruit Mike. I don't know how that's going to work. Probably what I'm anticipating is Mike will join up to try to be a spy to help Courtney and the rest of the JSA. That's something like
Yeah.
I anticipate is going to be in Mike's mindset.
It could also be a factor of just using Eclipso's manipulation to cause him to hallucinate and be convinced he's joining the right side.
Yeah, you never know. Um, we still have not seen any more of Starman. So Joel McHale hasn't shown up since the first episode.
Yeah.
Uh, so we still got that hanging in the air. We've not got a return of the Green Lantern girl yet.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
complaining about that while watching this episode. I was like, man, I was really
when's
hoping
she
for some
coming
more Green
back? Yeah,
Lantern.
yeah. I know. I'm waiting for her to come back too. Uh, or her brother. I want a Green Lantern. God
That
damn
was
it!
a Green Lantern promise for the season was the thing that got me most excited for this season.
Right? I mean, give us a cameo of Diggle, something. We need some Green Lantern in our life. Um, but who's to say? The episode is pretty much it's an intense episode, and I really liked it. But we're already over in time, so we're going to move ahead.
Okay.
Next is, of course, What If, and
What
this
if?
What If,
I,
and this week
I,
started with one of my favorite What If stories. It wasn't
before
actually in
before
the
we before we actually go on about what this episode is about, I want to share a little something I saw online today that had me cracking up. Um, there was a group chat or whatever, not a group chat necessarily. It was a Facebook thing, right? Where someone was posting images from the last week's episode, the Doctor Strange episode of What If, right?
Mhm.
And they were posting pictures of it and talking about it, right? And then someone comments, go, because they didn't recognize what it was. And they're like, what show is this from? And then someone replies, what if? And they replied back with, what if what? And they're like, what if? It's like,
It's like the
are you
classic.
not finishing your... And he's like, are you not finishing your sentence or what? I'm just asking what the name of the show is.
It's like a
Like,
classic who's on first
what
routine.
if is the name of the show. That's it. That's all she wrote. That's all,
Now,
folks.
and this one is a special What If episode because the occurrences in this What If episode do not come from the What If comic book. Instead, they come from the Marvel Zombies print run.
Yeah,
So,
it's called Marvel, or it's called What If Zombies. It's
yes.
a very simple name
And it turns
compared
out
to last week.
in this one, the zombie. We start off with Bruce Banner falling to Earth, wanting to warn him about Thanos coming.
Yeah,
And
yeah, from the beginning of Infinity War.
right, and we see him there, and we see the cloak of levitation in Doctor Strange's keep, and then we see Thanos's lackey do his exposition about how you've been honored by the great Thanos, who's going to come rule you and bring balance to your world, and blah blah blah. And then suddenly, he's like, "Let's go! Come on, green guy, let's go!" And he's like, "No!" Just like from the movie,
Yeah.
because suddenly the Hulk is shy,
He got his
and,
ass whooped by Thanos.
which he's not used to
Um,
happening.
yeah.
He's
So
lost
yeah,
some of his whole
it's
confidence.
very similar to the beginning of Infinity War, except for when
What happens
Hulk. I
next?
mean, it starts off with Hulk crashing into the Sanctum Sanctorum, but no one's in the Sanctum Sanctorum. It's
Yeah.
empty. And Banner comes outside, and after putting on some robes, that he finds inside the sanctum, and there's no one out in the streets. It's empty streets. And then that's when Thanos' lackeys beam down, doing their little spiel. And Banner tries to turn into Hulk. Hulk refuses.
Then a portal opens behind the lackeys,
Yeah. And
and you see
an
an
Iron
image of the
Man
Iron
hand
Man
comes
suit.
through.
You see an image of the Iron Man suit. You see what looks like might be Doctor Strange and Wong.
Yeah, but you can't see
And
their faces very well. You can just tell The
And
silhouettes of
his
the three of them.
and he's like, "Oh right, Tony, get him." And there's like, whoa, wait, that's a bit, that's too much.
Yeah. So they blast them on the back of the head and then jump through the portals and start just tearing them apart. And then he's like, Tony, that seems a little bit overkill.
And
Yeah.
then he realized these aren't the Avengers. They're not the Avengers you're looking for.
Yeah.
these are
They start
zombie
walking towards
Avengers.
him, zombified, and then Ebony
They
Maw and I forget the other guy's name. They stand up. The children of Thanos, the two of them
right.
stand up as zombies to join in, and the five of them come at Banner when Spider-Man swings in and saves him.
Well, first the
Uh,
cloak of levitation saves them,
oh yeah, that's right. The cloak of levitation saves him first.
and then
Um,
Spider-Man helps,
yeah.
and they basically the
Uh,
cloak of levitation and Spider-Man helps them meet up with Bucky Barnes and Agent Carter and
Hope Van Dyne, the Wasp.
and Hope Van Dyne, right? And then we hear from Hope Van Dyne the origin of the zombie plague, in which they'd gone down to the quantum realm to rescue her mom, but in this one, her mom had caught a quantum disease, which was basically zombieism, and
Yeah.
uh, and brought it back. And so when she opened up the pod to greet her mom and dad, well, her dad, no, her dad, no, what's his name? Scott opened the pod, and mom and dad went and quickly consumed most of Scott.
Yeah.
And she barely got away.
Yeah.
But
By
the
shrinking down, she was able to get away
but the big problem
narrowly.
was the infection of the rest of the Avengers came because Scott, as a zombie, was Ant-Man, and so he could go down to really tiny size and get around costumes and everything and bite people.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, Steve Rogers and Tony Stark and Doctor Strange and stuff all got
Yeah.
bit because they couldn't see him coming.
Yeah.
and and so they're working to try to get out. And then they've heard tale of a place that possibly has a cure. So they go in search of this cure place, and they're fighting and they're fighting, and it's a motley crew. I mean, we got Happy there, we've got the little Russian sidekick of Scott's there. We've got we've got Agent Carter, we've got Bucky Barnes, we've got Spider-Man, and we've got Bruce Banner who can't Hulk out,
Yeah.
and we've got the Wasp. Uh, Pretty much is our team, and they decide to go to the subway train station to take the train station out towards this one base that supposedly has a potential cure, but they can't get the train going. So while everybody else kind of holds the zombies off, Spider-Man basically uses his webbing to build a slingshot system to jumpstart the train with a push start.
Yeah. So
Uh,
basically, Wasp and Banner are working on fixing what needs to be fixed, while
with
Spider-Man
the Russian
is
guy.
building up. Yeah, he's building up strength to make a or to pull it with force with a slingshot webbing, basically.
Right.
Um, and the rest of the group is having to fight off zombies
And,
while they pull this off.
including Happy with
Um,
just an Iron Man glove.
yeah.
He's just
Oh,
got a repulsor glove. That's all he got.
Did you mention it had a woman from the Dora Milaje, one of
Oh
Black
yeah,
Panther's personal
that's
guards?
right. The leader of Black Panther's Dora
Yeah, I think
Milaje.
her name is Ukoi.
Yeah,
Ukoi,
something
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
But it was the leader of the Dora Milaje is helping them too, and so then they go heading out and they get the train going until the train runs out of gas, and then they have to fight their way through. Unfortunately, at some point in their battles, um,
Oh, it was
Hope
okay.
got
So while
the
the subway was fleeing, zombie Captain America jumped on the back of the ship,
and got
and he attacked Sharon Carter,
and
and then Bucky was fighting Captain America, and then Sharon Carter, was trying to get, attack Bucky as well, and then the Wasp flies in to help, and just as she flies in as she's shrinking down, Sharon Carter as a zombie
eats
uh,
her.
eats eats the wasp, like catches her in her mouth, um, and then after a little bit,
She
the wasp
expands to explode
expands
the body. Yeah.
yeah, and she's like, "Oh, gross! I'm covered in Sharon."
Yep. And then somebody notices that she does have a cut in her arm, and of course, the saliva is what, or bodily fluids is what transfers the zombieism. And with the open cut, it means she's pretty much going to be a zombie. She's like, you know what
Yeah,
you do. You're going to have to do. And they're like, no, we don't want to do it and stuff. And then they find out they're out of gas. And
yeah.
so they're
Train's out
like,
of gas.
well, and then they look out the window. And there is just a sea of zombies. I mean, it looks like it's seen from that recent Zack Snyder zombie film, Army of the Dead.
I
I mean, it's
haven't
just
seen
wall
that
to wall
one, but
freaking zombies, and
yeah,
she's like, "There's no way we can get through that." He says, and Dope's like, "No, but you can go over it." He says, "No." Everybody's like protesting because, of course, it's going to guarantee that she gets infected if she already isn't. It says, "Nope, I'm infected anyway." Basically, so she
yeah,
goes giant mode, which we've never seen Hope do. We've seen Scott do it, but we've not seen Hope go giant.
yeah,
And she starts striding through, and there's zombies waiting up her legs and shit.
yeah. She's like kicking them off while walking through them,
Right.
carrying all of
And
our heroes in her hands.
yep, and then she ends up, setting them down inside this base. And for some reason, the zombies aren't following. They're not pressing up against the fence. They're not
Yeah,
climbing the fence. There's even a rip in the fence they're not going through.
yep. They're keeping their
And they
distance.
come to find the Vision there. And the Vision
Yeah,
is the one that came up with the cure, and it has something to do with his Mind Stone. And he's partially restored Scott's head, just his
yeah.
head.
Scott. He has Scott Lang's head in the side of a jar, and he's
Yeah,
alive
Scott
and
is
active
an
and talking.
eligible member of the Head Museum from Futurama now.
Yeah, yeah. And he's making jokes. He's like, "Hey, what's up, guys? Why the weird looks? I know. I lost some weight."
Thanks for noticing. He says, "I'm sorry. This is how I handle crisis. I do bad dad jokes,"
Yeah.
and he does them all through the show. It's great.
It's how I keep my head over my shoulders.
Yep. Too soon? No. And then he tells him that yes, he's come up with this kind of cure, and they don't let him get through the butt before they go start searching the base for like a Quinjet or something to get them out there. And he tells them, no, you're not going to find what you want to find. And he's right, because what they find is Wanda, full on infected, and
Yeah.
Wanda's
They also find a Black Panther without a leg.
and the Black Panther without. And Scarlet Witch as a zombie is a bad bitch.
Yeah.
And come to
Yeah.
find out, the Vision could not. Wanda was too powerful for the cure to work, and Vision just could not bring himself to kill Wanda. And in fact, he even was feeding some of the people that made it there to Wanda because he couldn't see her wasting away that way either. And
Yeah. So he was curing people to feed them to Wanda.
right. And it basically shows us that Vision still has that element of humanity in him that you don't expect from a synthezoid. And
That's
then
some
when we
pretty poor
get,
humanity, though, if he's going to kill people to save his wife like that.
but what
I
they want
mean,
to
he's
do is
killing them to cure them.
they want to take the cure and they want to take it to Wakanda and use the Wakanda technology to mass produce the energy wave and send it through a Wakandan satellite over the earth to stop the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. And Wakanda is still one of the last safe havens in the world because of their
Because of their
force
force
barriers are
shield,
still out
yes.
protecting them from. Yep.
Yep. And so they head out using a Quinjet that they did find and got to work. But as they go and they pass over Hope, Hope reaches out and grabs them midair, just like he did the grab midair Scott did in Civil War.
Yeah. So the
Um,
fully zombified giant Hope Van Dyne reaches out and grabs him.
right. And
It,
so it's like
and
it's just a massive shit show of zombies, and it
yeah,
just basically
and
goes to
also
show you.
they have to escape. They got zombies in the way. They got Scarlet Witch as a zombie in the way. So Bruce Banner stays behind and hulks out to fight them to keep, to try to protect the Quinjet while they escape. And
And
also,
we never get a Hulk
Vision,
zombie because nobody's strong enough to pierce his skin.
yeah, and Vision sacrificed himself. He pulled out his Mind Stone to give it to the others so they can go and use it, make this global cure.
Mm-hmm. But in this case, the Hulk is one of their most powerful allies because his skin is so freaking dense that
Yeah,
nobody can get the zombie infection into the Hulk. And even if he was infected as Bruce, the Hulk gamma radiation when he transformed would kill off the bacteria during the transformation.
maybe.
At
It
least
might. We don't know
that's the
that. And
assumption.
part of why I mentioned that is because there was a time when Bruce almost got bit, right? Like a set of teeth or two were coming at his arms, and just as they were about to bite, his arms turned green and got a little bit bigger so that the bites
And he was like,
bounced
"Nice
off of it
save,
or
big guy."
whatever, and then returned back to normal.
And he was like, "Nice
Exactly.
save, big guy."
Yeah. So I kind of think that if they had broken the skin, they might have been successful at infecting him, and maybe he couldn't have burned it out.
Yeah, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, we don't know.
And we kind of end there.
Um, Almost, except for it shows they escape. It was funny as they are flying away, and they burn Hope's hands so that she lets go, and then she throws a zombie at them, and it just splats on their wing of their jet as they're flying away. I was worried, it's like, oh shoot, what is she throwing? A rock or a boulder or something? It was just a little zombie that splats. But they're flying to Wakanda, right, to do
Mm-hmm.
this whole cure thing. But then it cuts to zombie Thanos with an Infinity Gauntlet with 5 of the 6
Right.
stones just outside of Wakanda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
That's
that's the scary shit
not
there.
a not,
Zombie Thanos.
not a good sign. Yeah, a zombie Thanos with 5 out of the 6 stones, missing only the Mind
Mind
Stone,
Stone. Yep. That's some scary
which is
shit.
on its way to him, which is on his way to him in Wakanda.
Mm-hmm. And then we cut scene.
Yeah, we cut from
Okay.
there.
And that's pretty much it except for Titans.
Oh, I
Um,
forgot about Titans.
yep, and we're over as usual.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through Titans really quickly.
All right.
Blackfire is brought back to the mansion. Um, Connor and Garfield are like, "Hey, whoa, what's she doing here?" Um, she assumes that Blackfire assumes that Garfield is Coriander's manservant and plaything, and so she thinks that Connor is for her. She immediately starts ordering him around like he's some manservant.
Yeah.
And Connor's like more than happy to help. He's going to do, okay, yeah, sure, I can help.
He doesn't know any better, but it was
Right.
funny. Blackfire's like, go to my room and prepare to
Draw my bath.
my desires or something. And
Draw
he's
my
like,
bath.
okay. Like, no, don't do that. He's like, it's fine. I'd be happy to help her satisfy her desires. It's not what you think it is.
Right. And then Coriander gets in her face, says, look, we might be queens on what's called there,
Obscura?
Tamarind.
Not Obscura. Tamarind, yeah.
Yeah, in Tamarind we're queens. Here we're just like everybody else. You mean you're living like servants? He says, no, we're equal. Everybody takes a turn and stuff. This is like living like everybody else. And she's just not
Yeah.
getting it. And um, Dick has been shot, and it was by one of Gotham PD's snipers because of his
He's getting better.
because of his lone dog attitude in the last episode, his lone wolf thing.
Yeah.
And it pisses off Coriander, but it even more pisses off Garfield to where he almost involuntarily shifts the tiger.
Yeah, he started turning
And then
green.
his face turns green and he gets all growly.
That's bullshit, Dick.
Yeah. Then we get some flashbacks of Dick with Barbara when she's first starting to stretch her superhero wings before she was ever Batgirl or Oracle.
That whole bit was weird because she was basically mimicking Catwoman and burglarizing jewelry places.
And Dick was like, "What's with the Selena Kyle bit?" As he's
Yeah.
saying, either she was Selena Kyle and that was an alias, or as saying, "Why are you imitating Selena Kyle?" They never
Yeah.
quite clarified that.
And he was helping her with stealing these jewels.
And she was saying,
And
and
it's
she
just like,
originally said she was
why?
doing it to keep her dad on his toes, and stuff. And she's like, we could just give it back. And then they changed, and they just started a two-person crime spree, while Dick is still supposed to be robbing the Boy Wonder.
Yeah.
And that if Bruce ever caught him doing that, he'd tan his eye. But in the Bruce fashion of tanning your hide, which is a lot scarier than your parents.
Yeah.
Um, but so we get an insight into Barbara. We also see this Mistress something, Mistress Vic, I think, come in and frickin' slash the shit out of some doctors about to do a surgery with a device that basically replicates fluids, replicates chemical compounds. And we see Scarecrow looking through the observation window with Red Hood next to him. Basically, when you see her do all this slaughter and stuff, he says that he brought her along, and it proves that Red Hood is expendable, so he better know his place. That Crane's in charge.
Yeah.
He says, I can find another serial killer just like it. Basically, is what he said. There's a homicidal person in every street corner on Gotham. No worries. I'll find somebody to take your place. And and of course, we have a nice scene where just by a sound recording alone, Dick kind of replays the whole battle in the OR with Gar uh, lending some help because when he's trying to describe some of the slashes and he's not absolutely sure of the sound, he would have Garfield pick up a couple of different blades and try the slashes until he matched the sound more exactly because it's something him and Bruce used to do.
So yeah,
You know,
just by listening to an audio recording, Dick was able to figure out the size of the blades that were being used.
the relative
Um,
height of the combatants,
yeah,
the skill level, the not only the size of the blade but the type of blade because she actually said it was a 16-inch Wakasashi.
yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty specific.
And then from that was then able to conclude specifically who it was because he knows of one person out there
That
that
wields
might be in
throwing knives
Gotham
and
that has
Wakasashis.
that specific skill set and uses those specific weapons and has the type of personality that comes with the way that she would you could hear that she was like deliberately slashing the back so that they feel more pain than necessary before they die
Like
or
when
whatever.
she hamstrings the one guy, and
Oh yeah, cuts the Achilles tendon on one guy,
mm-hmm,
which he figures all this out by just sound alone.
yep. And Corey and Connor and Blackfire go to investigate the one place, and Corey's inside, and it's the supposed to be the place where the doctor who built the machine that was stolen from the OR by uh, Madam Vic. And well, she's in there. She finds the scientist, but she's strapped to a bomb just like the one that killed Hank. And so she calls for Connor, and Connor rushes in at super speed, and then super speeds a deactivation thing and stops it literally at 0 on the timer.
I think it had 2 beats.
No, it said
Uh,
like 0 on the readout at the end there. I think it might have had 2/10 of a second left.
well, it doesn't measure in seconds; it measures in beats.
Yeah. Anyway, uh, so he barely stopped it in time. They come out to the car, and Blackfire's gone. I think, oh great, he's escaped. And Corey is pissed. And they come back to the house, and there's frickin' Blackfire sitting on the couch. He's like, "Where have
Yeah,
you been?" He says, "Well, while you were in there doing that, I was pounding the pavement," which she had been recommending they do from the very beginning. Says, "You don't go
yeah,
talk to these guys. You talk to the low lifes around them because they're the ones that are going to know what's going on."
yeah.
Because Blackfire can think like a criminal because Blackfire is a criminal at heart.
So yeah, she was out you going out to the bars or whatever and roughing up some guys and got information.
Yep. And so that's a lot happening. And then of course they had originally decided to use they were originally going to bring out the Oracle computer system, not Oracle as in Barbara Gordon, to try to identify the sounds before Dick went ahead and just did it the old fashioned way. Um, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else of super importance because we're really about done with the episode.
I can think of other events that happened, but I can't think of if I don't know if they're super important.
Yeah, I
Like
think.
we know that we get the blonde assassin lady who Crane brought into town has a history with Barbara and Dick where
Mhm.
she blames them for her husband dying 6 years ago, and that's all shown in a flashback because they tried to rob the same jewelry place that Barbara and Dick were robbing. And then
Well,
they got into a fight.
ultimately, Barbara and Dick robbed the place, and then just as they, opened up the case and everything, they're like, okay, we'll take that.
Yeah. Um, and so the husband died in that confrontation. Technically, she killed her own husband. She threw it, and I don't know, Barbara ducked or something, and it hit whoever it was she threw the knife at ducked or dodged, however, and it hit her husband and killed him.
Yep.
And she blames Dick and Barbara for her husband's death. And
Right.
she was hired by Crane to take a picture of her face, of Barbara's face.
Mm-hmm.
Which she does that, but does not successfully kill Barbara in the present day. She just managed to get her picture of her face before she's chased off.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara does a pretty good job of defending herself from her wheelchair because she's got
Mad
sticks
skills.
hidden in her car. Yeah, she's got some skills still.
Yeah, because she has a block tonfa, not a round tonfa, but a block tonfa, squared off one that
Yeah,
extends extra long, and she uses that to great effect.
yeah.
Versus the
Cool.
Wakasashi. I mean, because being stuck in a wheelchair and still being able to block all those attacks with just a basically a billy club and a block tonfa, that takes mad skills.
Yeah.
Barbara's
So,
got mad. Well, I mean, but Barbara shows mad skills the first time you see her in the first flashback too, when she has that vase and she's evading Dick Grayson in martial
yeah,
arts and never dropping the vase and breaking it or anything. Throws it up in the
yeah,
air, catching it at just the right moment and shit. It's like,
yeah.
God damn, you don't expect that out of Barbara Gordon. Not in the beginning of her career, anyway.
Yeah, that in the beginning of before she was Batgirl.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was
And
a gymnast, though, so.
and Robin told her that she could be Robin Girl. I like that line.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Robin Girl has a
So, yeah,
nicer
I think
ring to
that's
it.
it. Robin Girl.
Yeah. So, but anyway,
So,
yeah,
I think
that's
that's
about
it.
it.
I think that's all the big things.
So, what do we have then? That's it for this week. Next week we will not have Legends of Tomorrow. We should have, because I haven't heard anything about another hiatus. We should have Supergirl, Stargirl, Titans, and I believe next week is also Doom Patrol. It's either
Dimitrov's
next
going
week
to
or
be
the
back
week
yet?
after.
Okay.
It's either next week or the week after that we
Okay.
get Doom Patrol, and we'll have What If again.
Yeah.
We're edging really close to the release of Venom, the release of
Oh.
Eternals, the release of Ghostbusters Afterlife, the release of.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one.
We've got so many releases on the horizon. Malignant comes out this week for a new horror movie.
Yeah. Made by the guy who created Saw and The Conjuring and something else.
Yeah, and I'm starting to give Saw more credit because I didn't like the first Saw, and I'm used to the first one always being the best in the series, so I didn't
Oh,
give it
yeah?
much respect. But after watching some of the other ones, I was like, okay, the Saw is starting to grow on me because the first one was boring as fuck, really, as far as I was concerned. A lot of people liked it, but I couldn't. I was like bored. Same thing with Hostel. Hostel and Saw, both of them bored me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were just really boring, and I love horror movies. Um, but anyway, we got so much stuff coming out. A lot more stuff is going direct to theaters. Like I said, uh, Free Guy went to theaters, so we haven't done a review of Free Guy. Um, Shang-Chi and Legend of Ten Rings went direct to the theaters, so I've not watched it yet. Um, Venom is going to go direct to theaters. Uh, that means that depending on how it does in the theaters, Eternals will probably go direct to
Oh,
theaters.
something we didn't mention, I just want to give a quick mention of. A teaser came out for The Matrix Resurrections.
Oh yes, and in another day or so, they're supposed to get the full trailer, not just the teaser.
Yeah.
because the new Matrix is getting ready to come out, and it's looking hot. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one it's supposed to be due. Like I think it's tomorrow that the full trailer is supposed to come out. Because after the teaser said, and in 2 days the full trailer will be coming out. So it either came out today or it's coming out tomorrow. I
Yeah.
think by Friday at the absolute latest, we should be seeing it. Which is another one we got to look forward to. We still don't have a definite release date for Fantastic Beasts 3, but it's still presumed to be a Thanksgiving release this year.
Yeah.
Um,
I just got a work thing that came in, so I gotta dip out of here. So I
okay,
gotta wrap
so
up.
we're gonna call it. You can see us here every week from 8 till infinity.
Yeah.
Technically to 8 till 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. Most of the time it'll be the three of us, me, Phil, and Greg. Of course, every third Wednesday of the month, Greg is over at Holdfast Brewing Company, and occasionally one of either Phil or Greg may not make a show because of other considerations. Life does happen. If I'm not going to make a show, we're probably not going to have the show because I'm doing the main hosting. Uh, we haven't set it up to where anybody else could host the main software right now, but maybe in the future we'll do that so that if I miss a show, they
Yeah.
can still do it. Anyway, catch me here on Gamer Seuss, the Twitch channel. Catch Phil on Left Claw Studios. Catch Greg at Queen City Cardboard. I do not know if he's going to be broadcasting tomorrow his normal stream of story and short games, but he typically
Yeah.
does stream sometime about 10 o'clock on Thursdays. So definitely log in and check that out. Keep your eye open for more information on game. And remember, if you want to volunteer to run something, just try to make it to one of our meetings. If you're not already a member, join Eclectic Endeavors on Facebook so you get the notifications of when we're going to have new meetings. I think our next meeting is going to be set to be a virtual meeting, so you won't even have to necessarily leave your house. Just Discord in. Uh, if you decide you want to join a meeting, just message on Eclectic Endeavors so we can make sure that you get a Discord invite. Last meeting, we just did it in my Discord channel. So that's probably what we're going to end up doing, something along that lines again. And we will catch everybody next week. Let Philip go. And I bid everybody good night.
Night.